Chapter 623. 20 million. I'll stop and apologize to you publicly. Not only will I never slander you again, but I'll also report to you if I accidentally take any negative news about you. In addition, with my reputation in the entertainment circle, as long as you and I reach an agreement, I'll help you find out who wants to deal with you in the future. What do you think? Or if anyone else in the entertainment circle wants to go against you, I'll help you. This is called strategic cooperation. Zhuo Wei finally opened his mouth and offered a sky-high price, but it sounded good. Strategic cooperation with China's top paparazzi. Chen Guang laughed. Take a piss and look at yourself. 20 million? I won't even give you 20. I'm a serious businessman. And I'm also a righteous artist. I'm not afraid of you at all. How can a human cooperate with a dog? You know what's good for you. This is the last chance I'm giving you. Chen Guang couldn't be bothered with this retard. He hung up the phone and didn't rush to drive. Instead, he went online to check the situation. Sure enough, Xianqin's control of public opinion seemed easy for a while. But after brewing for the entire afternoon, Zhuo Wei's water army became more covert and cunning. They were also able to incite the netizens to unite against a common enemy. Although the darts world's collective support and official media like Dachuan Satellite TV supported Chen Guang, and the hundreds of people who were deceived under the Lida building today also went back and told the truth on the internet, clarifying Chen Guang's name. However, the public opinion on the internet did not change for the better and was still deteriorating. Just now, Zhuo Wei had carefully produced an article accusing Chen Guang of allowing the security guards to hurt passersby. The passersby in his photo were the 5 employees of 8 News Weekly, who were taken away in the afternoon. Of course, these people were indeed bruised. Although it wasn't Chen Guang's people who did it, they were all injured by the angry crowd, who found out they were being used. But Zhuo Wei had framed them, and then turned into a messenger of justice. He threatened to seek justice for these innocent victims, and threatened to sue the law. Although anyone with a discerning eye would know that Zhuo Wei was just bluffing and trying to fabricate something out of nothing, there were still many blind people in this world. Chen Guang would never be able to wait for Zhuo Wei's so-called court summons in his lifetime. But the denunciations against him on the internet were getting louder and louder. Ordinary people didn't know the truth, so they just wanted to join in the fun. It didn't matter if Weibo was controlled. There were still Tiebao and forums, right? Aren't there QQ and WeChat groups? Otherwise, he would post a diary in his QQ space, or post a chicken soup article in his WeChat moments. It doesn't matter if the information app is under control. You can control me to publish news, but you can't control my fake reviewers to cause trouble in the comments section. For a moment, it really gave Zhuo Wei the feeling of being condemned by thousands of people. When she got home, Xianqin knew that she had not only failed to help, but also made a mess of things, so she hid in her room. When she heard the door open, she poked her head out to take a look, and then said, "The director is back. It's been hard on you, director. Rest early." Initially, Chen Guang did not have the intention to teach her a lesson, but when he saw how guilty she looked, he felt playful and purposely pulled a long face as he knocked on the door. "Come out. I have something to ask you." After a few seconds, Xianqin, wearing a cute pleasant goat pajamas, came out of the door dejectedly. She didn't dare to look up at Chen Guang, so she lowered her head and looked at her toes. "I'm sorry I got into trouble. I thought it was easy." Chen Guang still had a straight face. How can you be so naive? Do you really think that public opinion is so easy to control? You think you can solve it with a bit of power and a bit of banning? Don't look down on me. I want to kill him, but you won't let me. What do you want me to do? Now no one can say that your darts are fake, right? It's still useful. Pfft. What's the use of darts if no one says it's useful? My reputation is ruined. Won't the league that you organized under my name still have to kneel down? Xianqin's head drooped lower and lower. I was wrong. I apologize. If an apology is useful, why do we need the police? Xianqin raised her head and looked at Chen Guang with tears welling up in her eyes. Then what are you going to do? You can just punish me. I'll accept it. Chen Guang still looked angry. He walked back and pointed to the sofa. Come here. Xianqin followed him. Lie down. Chen Guang said again. Xianqin started to panic. You. What are you going to do? I'm still a child. Chen Guang patted her head. Didn't you say that you are already an adult? Now that I'm going to beat you up, you're a child? What are you thinking? I'm just going to spank you. Xianqin heaved a sigh of relief. It's okay. It's just a spanking. Wait a minute. Spanking doesn't sound right. But regardless of what she was thinking in her heart, she was already lying on the armrest of the sofa. She raised her butt and looked at Chen Guang with her eyes brimming with tears. Be gentler. I'll hit you 3 times. Don't blame me for being ruthless. I'm doing this to help you remember. I'm doing this for your own good. Chen Guang said shamelessly. Okay, I know I'm wrong. Thank you, brother Chen Guang. Thank you, chief. Xianqin actually believed him. Pa. Phew. The little loli let out a moan that sounded like a cry of pain. Pa. Squeak. Little Loli's voice became louder. The 3rd time, there was no sound. Little Loli was nervous for a long time and finally realized something was wrong. Didn't you say you want to spank me? Spank me? Seeing that the first 2 times hurt you, I felt bad for you. So the 3rd time is especially gentle. Oh, is that so? You're such a good person. Thank you, brother Chen Guang. You're welcome. It's what I should do. After waiting for about 2 or 3 minutes, Xianqin finally realized that she had been touched by this guy for 2 minutes. Leaping up from the couch, she raised her leg to kick Chen Guang's head. Chen Guang, who was prepared, shrank his neck, turned around and ran. He rushed into the bedroom and locked the door. It's getting late. Sleep early. Come out. Chief orders you to go back to sleep. Xianqin stomped her feet in anger. Her master's inculcation was still ringing in her ears. She kept repeating in her heart, listen to the command, respect the leader, and don't be willful. But I can't respect this chief at all. Little Xianqin, listen to me. I was wrong, okay? Go back to sleep. Tomorrow, we have to do something big. What big thing? Counterattack. Really? Do you have any ideas? Xianqin's attention was diverted. Don't panic. I have my own plan. You'll know tomorrow. Xianqin believed his words and finally settled down and went back to the bedroom. Chen Guang pressed his back against the door. When he heard the sound of Xianqin closing the door, he heaved a sigh of relief. Provoking the little tigress was really poisonous. He knew that the risk was high, but the temptation was also great. As for the so-called mountain man's plan, don't fool around. That was just nonsense to fool Xianqin. Don't take it seriously. Of course, sometimes there was retribution for asking for trouble. Just now, it was fun to take advantage of Xianqin. But when he returned to the room, he still had a silver spear on his head. He didn't dare to sleep on his stomach. There was still a fire in his heart that he couldn't calm down. This was not enjoyment but suffering. He was quick-witted. He took out his phone, opened WeChat, and clicked on Jiang Ye's profile picture. Recently, she and Jin Shuiyue seemed to be very busy and didn't send new goods to Chen Guang. With the mentality of giving it a try, Chen Guang sent her 3 words. Are you asleep? 10 seconds later, Jiang Ye replied, Not yet. I'm in the bathtub. At this moment, Chen Guang felt a little disappointed in his heart. Usually, when a goddess told a loser that she was going to take a bath, it was most likely to be an excuse to get out of the situation and not want to talk to her anymore. Jiang Ye's words probably meant something, but 5 seconds later, he realized that he was wrong. Jiang Ye's words were not simple words. There were 2 main points. First, she was in the bathtub. Second, she was in the bathtub. Therefore, she definitely didn't mean that she didn't want to talk to Chen Guang anymore. She was simply using such a detailed description of herself to tease Chen Guang. In any case, she had already sent Chen Guang her dirty secrets countless times, and she had managed to get hold of his weakness in Inua's toilet. Therefore, Jiang Ye, who was lying in the bathtub, rolled her eyes and came up with a bad idea. Now turn on the video call. She felt that she was speaking like a queen. Chen Guang was stunned. What? I said turn on the video call. Jiang Ye seemed to be unable to wait any longer and took the initiative to start the video call. Chen Guang was at a loss. He clearly wanted to take advantage of her. Why did it seem like she had turned the tables on him? Although he was letting his imagination run wild, his hands didn't slow down. He quickly accepted the video call. After a short loading, the image of Jiang Yage lying in the bathtub appeared on the phone. The hazy white mist slightly blocked the camera, and Chen Guang could only see a blurry figure. But after a while, the focal length matched, and Jiang Yage's figure became clear. Her long wet hair was draped over her head, and there were a few water droplets on her face. Her eyebrows were like green grass in winter with dew on them. It made her look more charming and less lively than usual. The Jiang Yage in the bathtub in the camera was not the usual Jiang Yage. It was the first time she had a direct video call with Chen Guang. Coupled with her special situation, Jiang Yage's face was slightly red. She looked a little shy. However, she seemed to have adjusted the camera a little higher. Even when Chen Guang looked at the bottom, he could only see two hemispheres. Chen Guang's eyes were nearly blinded by the water droplets on her fair skin that was tinged with a pink hue. You idiot! You still have the mood to take advantage of me? I've been watching you online for the past 2 days, and I'm about to explode. Guang, your career as an artist has had a bad start. Do you want me to give you some pointers as a senior? In the camera, Jiang Yage was tickled by Chen Guang's anxious look. She covered her mouth and giggled. Tell me what ideas you have. Hearing her talk about business, Chen Guang came back to his senses. Chapter 624. Hurry up and bankrupt your lousy company. Come directly to Beijing and join my and sister Shiyue's company. I guarantee that we will package you up properly. Really? If I knew that you wanted to work in the entertainment industry, you should have told me and sister Shiyue. There is no need for you to be outside Beijing. Actually, Jiang Yage knew a little about the inside story of Chen Guang's company, but she was not very happy about this situation. Today, she simply said what was in her heart, and at this time, she was also pretending to be confused with Chen Guang. How could Chen Guang agree to her request? Don't look at how his company was in a precarious state, and his image as an internet celebrity was on the verge of collapsing. However, he hadn't even spent a tenth of the 130 million yen that Tang Xiaokai threw at him. So how could he leave now? You want me to quit before I finish spending the money? I don't feel guilty. Aren't you trying to dig out the flesh from my heart? No matter what, you have to spend enough before you leave. Besides, the old man was already said to be living off a woman. If I enter the company of the two of you, how can I still raise my head in the future? Most importantly, his main task now was to attract attention, and buy time and space for the old men in Beijing to play tricks. If he went to Beijing to enter the company of his left and right hands, wouldn't that be dragging them down? Wouldn't he be beaten to death by the hot-tempered old man Jiang? Don't hesitate. Come to my warm embrace. As Jiang Yage spoke, she sat up slightly and opened her arms to the camera to bare her chest. Now everything that should and shouldn't be seen was all out. Chen Guang's eyes instantly widened. He gritted his teeth and said, "No. Is my chest not warm enough? No, it's because my life dream has not been realized." TSK. Jiang Yage kind of wanted to threaten him with the fact that he was pretending to be Chen Yu, but after thinking about it, he gave up. Although it was a good thing to use against him, he would be disgusted if he pestered him too much. People always grow up. Ever since she got to know Chen Guang, Jiang Yage often reflected on her previous actions. In the past, Chen Guang was afraid of her. No matter how naive she was, she could slowly understand the reason behind it. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. You can do whatever you want. Anyway, you must be careful, Jiang Yage added. Chen Guang rubbed his nose. He couldn't take it anymore. This girl was so unreserved. She was still facing the camera. Wasn't it too much to stick out her chest and raise her head? Don't worry, nothing will happen to me. Are you sleeping alone now? Jiang Yage pulled her thoughts back to the bad idea that she had thought of this morning. Chen Guang grunted. Of course, can there be anyone else here? You promised me before that no matter what I say, you will agree, right? Otherwise, I will have to tell you that you are pretending to be Chen Yu. Alright, just say what you want to say. A man can't go back on his words. As long as it's not against the law, no, against my life principles, then it's all right. Chen Guang's mouth answered intermittently, but in fact his eyes were completely fixed on the phone screen. In the camera, Jiang Yage had completely sat up straight. Usually, Jiang Yage didn't look tall, and even gave people a delicate and cute feeling. But only Chen Guang knew that this girl's chest was more voluptuous than he imagined. Since you are obedient, then it's all right. Then I want you in the camera to face me. What? Rub. Jiang Yage smiled wickedly. Her seemingly evil request was already within Chen Guang's expectations. Master Guang was very calm. Do you think you are unpredictable? But in fact, I have already seen through your behavior. You think you are threatening me, but in fact, I am taking advantage of you. Also, you have to point the camera at yourself. You know exactly where to point. What? Chen Guang was just showing off when Jiang Yage raised her next request. This time he was dumbfounded. She was too unconventional. Of course, otherwise, if you always look at me and I can't see you, I will be at a disadvantage. No, I have to look at you today too. Hurry and change to the rear camera. Be more conscious. Don't force me to use my ultimate move. Jiang Yage's smile became more and more sinister. Must it be like this? Of course, when you saved me at the painting lake in the 5 capital, I was very curious. You don't know how long I have been thinking about it. As Jiang Yage spoke, she stood up from the bathroom and used a towel to dry her hands. Then, she picked up her phone and kept putting it down. My dear Guang, be more conscious. Look at how brave I am. About 20 minutes later, the two people who were thousands of miles apart, one was paralyzed on the bed, and the other was paralyzed in the bathtub. Generally speaking, they were in a similar state, panting heavily and their faces flushed. I will disconnect first. If I stay in the bathroom for too long, Sister Shiryu will be suspicious. On the other side, Jiang Yage said softly and kissed the camera. Young man, you did well today. If you are obedient next time, there will be more benefits. See you at Big Beard's signing ceremony in a few days. Then, she ended the WeChat video call. Chen Guang used a tissue to clean up the mess, while silently looking at the phone screen. He was satisfied but felt that he was sinking deeper and deeper. Forget it. As the saying goes, the boat will cross the bridge when it comes to it. People can't be suffocated to death. Let's take one step at a time. As the owner of the Holy Grail, I can't treat myself like a saint and torture myself. No ordinary person can resist Jiang Yage. In fact, sometimes the netizens were right. Chen Guang felt that he already had Zhuo Jingxi, but he still couldn't resist the temptation of Jiang Yage. From time to time, he would also be distracted by Lu Fei. Today he was provoked by Tang Ying's bet. There was still Sister Wu Tong in Beijing. On the other hand, although Wenwen refused to admit it, Chen Guang subconsciously felt that she was lying. The relationship between the two was definitely not simple. Sometimes thinking about these happy troubles gave him a headache. But he really couldn't bear to do it. Many things had developed out of his control. Perhaps, from the beginning to the end, the only person who could make him feel at ease was Sun Xiaoxuan, who was now in the United States. But thinking about it from another point of view, was it really fair to her to always make her pay in love, but never give her any response? Chen Guang couldn't find an answer to this question. He could only think silently that people would always change. Perhaps time would be able to give these things an answer. As for now, he would take one step at a time. The next day, Chen Guang woke up early. He first went online to check the news. The situation was not any better than the day before. And the netizens were still scolding him. Because of Xianqin's actions yesterday, Weibo and other major media outlets with official background articles were silent. But it couldn't stop the enthusiasm of the netizens. Yesterday, after Zhuo Wei tried to negotiate with Chen Guang for the second time, and was cut off, he seemed to have increased the number of internet water army. With more ghostwriters, more netizens started to criticize Chen Guang on the internet, including the hospitalized employees and the investment in the online advertising campaign. This time, Zhuo Wei had put in almost all his money. In order to force Chen Guang to submit, he had spent at least 7 figures. He couldn't stop here. Now that Chen Guang was in a difficult situation, Zhuo Wei couldn't back down. If Zhuo Wei gave up just like that, not only would all the investment go to waste, but his reputation in the industry would also be completely gone. I'll go downstairs to buy breakfast. After waiting for a while, Xianqin also woke up. She seemed to be in a good mood as she skipped downstairs. When she came up, her face was dark. That Zhuogai sent people again. This time, they were very careful and kept hiding in the car. When I realized something was wrong, they drove away. Again, they really didn't want to give up. Just as he was about to drive to the office, Chen Guang received a call from Tang Ying. She said that she kept feeling that someone was spying on her at the hospital. When Chen Guang arrived at the company, he received a call from Fan Lingshan. Just like what Tang Ying had said, someone had also gone to her school. Chen Guang was stunned. He took out his phone and called the unknown number from yesterday. On the other end, Zhuo Wei sounded very proud. Mr. Chen, how was it? Did the gift I prepared for you today meet your standards? Of course, Zhuo Wei was proud. After a few days of effort, he had more or less figured out Chen Guang's main social connections. Other than some that he couldn't find, or his family members who were currently abroad, Zhuo Jingxi, Sun Xiaoxuan, or Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage, who didn't dare to follow him. Everyone else, including Tang Ying, Fan Lingshan, and even Chen Guang's cousin, Feng Yong, didn't escape. Everyone who was close to Chen Guang, he had sent people from Octagon Weekly to follow them. Keeping an eye on these people might not be able to dig out any big news, but Zhuo Wei felt that it could give Chen Guang the illusion that his attacks were overwhelming. For the sake of this big project, Zhuo Wei had invested almost everyone from Octagon Weekly. I'm quite satisfied. Chen Guang snorted coldly. Now that things had come to this, he had learned a lot. 30 million. Our strategic cooperation has increased again. I'm sure you know that I'm using the entire Octagon Weekly to play with you. Brother, that's not how you do business. Harmony brings wealth, right? Go play with your balls. Chen Guang hung up on him again. Xianqin, who was next to him, blinked and looked at him. Is this your mountain man has a brilliant plan? Chen Guang snorted through his nose. Of course it's not over. Help me call everyone from the security department and cleaning department over. Oh right, call the people from the cafeteria department over too. Are you going to make a move? Xianqin asked. Chen Guang grunted. Since I've been called a violent maniac on the internet, I might as well be even more violent. I want to see how many people from Octagon Weekly will play with me. Before, he was hiding things from me, so it was inconvenient for me to find people. Now that they've all come out, it's time for me to fight back. After Xianqin left, Chen Guang called Zhuo Jingxi again. Looking at the time, it should be 11 or 12 o'clock in the evening in the United States. Zhuo Jingxi was still awake. Before Chen Guang could say anything, Zhuo Jingxi said angrily, I just saw it on the internet. Third uncle is really too much. How could he say that about you? It seemed that only she knew about this. Chapter 625. Chen Guang, listen to me. I've hated third uncle since I was young. He's the one who instilled this idea into my parents all day long, saying that I'm pretty and that I must marry a rich man. That's not all. You don't know, but when I was in high school, he even wanted to pull me into the entertainment industry. At that time, he dragged me to some boss's table, and I was so scared that I almost called the police. From then on, I didn't want to see him. Even when he came to my house, I avoided him. Zhuo Jingxi was full of bitterness when she mentioned her uncle. Chen Guang knew that there was such a past, and he was speechless. He would even sell out his own niece. That was really a living beast in human form. Fortunately, my teacher Zhuo has principles and doesn't bend over for 5 buckets of rice. Otherwise, there would be a big grudge. Those reports about me, and you must have been told by my parents. This is too much. I have to call my parents and tell them. Chen Guang dissuaded her. Don't call your parents. It's okay. I'll make sure he doesn't get into trouble in 2 or 3 days. You can't be. Zhuo Jingxi knew Chen Guang's temper. She was worried that Chen Guang would do something stupid in a moment of impulse. What are you thinking about? I'm a person of status now. No matter how annoying he is, he's still your relative. I can't take his life. Zhuo Jingxi kissed the phone and said, but don't be too polite with him. He's like that. Give him an inch and he'll take a mile. But don't be careless. I heard a long time ago that he was very close to a boss in Wujing City with the surname Liu. Don't be rash. Don't worry. The biggest boss in our country is protecting me. What's a boss in Wujing City? Chen Guang said half jokingly and half seriously. After hanging up, he rubbed the phone with his fingers. He was quite satisfied. This call was not in vain. He got a very important message from Zhuo Jingxi. The identity of Zhuo Wei's backer had always been a mystery. Many people had made wild guesses, but Zhuo Wei had hidden it very well. Chen Guang was also troubled by the fact that he couldn't ask Wu Shan for help, because he wanted to avoid arousing suspicion. He had been passive the entire time, but now he finally had a target. After waiting for a while, nearly 30 people from the 2 treasures and 1 candy were all present. Chen Guang looked at this group of eager kids and gave the order for everyone to move out. He split them up and sent them to the people who might be targeted by Zhuo Wei. Let's see how many people there are in your 8 weekly magazine. I'll beat up every one of them. Indeed, Zhuo Wei did not expect Chen Guang's counterattack to come so quickly and so fiercely. Under the attack of the 2 treasures and 1 candy sent by Chen Guang, the 108 King Kong warriors of 8 weekly magazine, which he was so proud of, only lasted for less than a day before they were completely annihilated. Chen Guang wrote down a list of people who might be targeted, and then let these 30 people set off. Except for a few people who might be targeted, such as Tang Ying and Fan Lingshan, at least one of his 3 or 4 friends, including Zhu Jifa and the others in Lilai County, went. He did not let the big guys go empty-handed, and basically all of them got something. Although the people from 8 weekly magazine were usually in groups of 2 or 3 people, and most of the people sent by Chen Guang were lone rangers, the strength of the 2 sides was not proportional. When the special warfare elites from the Shun Special Training Camp dealt with ordinary people, it was already modest to fight 1 against 5, and it was considered low-key to fight 10. Although the people from 8 weekly magazine were good at taking photos, the special warfare elites could even find foreign secret agents and spies, let alone the paparazzi. According to Chen Guang's custom-made requirements, all the 8 weekly magazine employees who were found were sent to the hospital. In the words of the people sent by Chen Guang at that time, it was roughly like this. I have prepared 100,000 yuan for each person's medical expenses. You guys beat up about 100,000 yuan for each person to recover. If Zhuo Wei dares to sue, I dare to accept it. Of course, you'd better do it quietly, don't leave any evidence. Of course, he said this in a fit of anger. With the methods of Chu Hanji and the other experienced people, there would be no sequelae, but these people would not be able to get out of bed for at least half a month. For the whole day, Chen Guang happily stayed in the office and listened to the good news coming from outside. From time to time, he would walk around the 15th floor of Lida building, seeing that his new company was becoming more and more presentable under the busy renovation team. He felt comfortable in his heart. In addition, he also gave the first order to everyone in the new company. During this period of time, the most important thing for our company is to all post and reply on the internet. Those who have acquaintances in the media or the internet water army, help me find people. It doesn't matter if it costs money. Those who don't have acquaintances and connections, smash the connections for me with money. Whether or not our company can succeed depends on whether or not my reputation as an internet celebrity will be ruined. Protecting my golden reputation is more important than anything else. Of course, these words were only discussed with the most core department managers by Chen Guang for the time being. The specific implementation was handled by Yu Hong and the other department managers. Around noon, after the people who were knocked unconscious and sent to the hospital reported the news, Zhuo Wei finally realized that something was wrong. But when he tried to get everyone to withdraw, it was already 1 step too late. The others hadn't reported the news yet because they were on the way to the hospital, or they were lying in the hospital and hadn't woken up yet. After another half an hour, after confirming that all the people he sent out had been wiped out, Zhuo Wei called Chen Guang again. This time, it was Chen Guang who spoke first. Damn fatty, is my greeting gift okay? You've completely infuriated me, Chen Guang. Zhuo Wei gritted his teeth. What are you talking about? What happened? Did something happen at home? What did I do to make you angry? I think you've been thinking about money so much that you've gone crazy recently. But you should be buying lottery tickets, not calling me. Chen Guang lied through his teeth. Within a day, all his people were sent to the hospital. This was 100% Chen Guang's doing. But Chen Guang didn't admit it. Zhuo Wei really couldn't do anything to him, because the people Chen Guang sent out were clean and neat. They left without leaving any credit or fame, not even a trace of video evidence. Both of them had a tacit understanding, but Zhuo Wei couldn't do anything. He couldn't say that he sent people to secretly take pictures of Chen Guang's friends, and then knock them unconscious. Plus, there was no evidence. You'll pay the price sooner or later. Leaving such a sentence, Zhuo Wei hung up the phone while gritting his teeth. This time he won. He hung up first. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Zhuo Wei made another call. After a short conversation, he finally showed an expression of relief and said to himself, "Boss Lu is finally back. I don't believe that Boss Lu can't deal with you. You're just an internet celebrity. Why are you so smug? How dare you say that Jean Shirue doesn't say anything because she trusts you? Stop fooling around. You've already infuriated the Jean family. They're not saying anything now. Isn't that the calm before the storm?" Using himself as a measure, Zhuo Wei felt that if he was the elder of the Jean family and saw that his precious granddaughter's boyfriend had an affair, he would definitely explode. The news that came from Yin Jing proved this point perfectly. It was rare for Zhuo Wei to get clear information about those people. It wasn't groundless speculation, but a certain old man had clearly stated on a semi-public occasion that he didn't oppose or support young people's affairs. The troubles of young people could only be solved by young people themselves. Zhuo Wei wasn't sure about the matter between Chen Guang and his classmate, but he knew that there was definitely something going on between Chen Guang and Zhuo Jingxi. The reason why Zhuo Wei was so fearless was because he thought that Chen Guang would be afraid of being slandered by him, which would affect his status as the Fuma. Zhuo Wei firmly believed that Chen Guang would give in sooner or later. As long as he could keep his status as the Fuma, how much money couldn't he earn back? It was a simple logic that Chen Guang understood. Zhuo Wei kept telling himself this. Just a little more, and he would be afraid, and the matter would be settled. It didn't matter how much he offended him now. After they formed a cooperative relationship, he would know how good he was. There was no such thing as an eternal enemy in the world. The only thing that would never change was benefits. On the other side, Chen Guang ordered the 2 treasures and 1 candy scattered outside to come back. Then he called Wang Qing. Since Zhuo Jingxi had revealed that Zhuo Wei had the backing of a big shot in the underworld, Wang Qing, who was an insider, was the most reliable way to find out who the big shot Lu was. "Big shot Lu? My uncle Lu Chao." Wang Qing, who was on the other side of the phone, used less than 2 seconds to reveal the name of the big shot Lu. Sure enough, there was a reason for this big shot Lu's status in the 5 capitals. "Brother Guang, what business do you have with him?" Wang Qing was a little puzzled. In the past, although Chen Guang knew his identity, he almost never asked him about the 5 capitals underworld. "Is this person very powerful?" Chen Guang asked. On the other side of the phone, Wang Qing's expression became serious. It sounded like the matter was quite troublesome. "Brother Guang, you also know that the times are different from the past. In my dad's line of work, he's more of a businessman. Of course, sometimes, the words of a businessman like me are more useful than an ordinary businessman. We do proper business, even if it's a little bit improper. As for Big Shot Lu, his status in the underworld is similar to my dad's. Currently, in our province's underworld, Big Shot Lu's words carry enormous weight." "What's his main business?" Chen Guang asked. "Mining. He has shares in many quarries, sand quarries, and coal mines in the province. He's also involved in some mining companies that mine metals. He's the chairman of the Energy Association of Great Chuan Province. His assets are about a few billion. In any case, he's a pretty ugly eater. He's much better at making money than my dad." Chen Guang was stunned. The background of the coal boss was so scary. Lu Chao was the boss of the coal boss? Damn, no wonder that scumbag Zhuo Wei was so daring. His background was quite strong. Even though Wang Qing said that Lu Chao was just some chairman of the Great Chuan province, what era was this? It was impossible for Lu Chao to climb to this position without the secret support of someone above him. Forget it. I can't think about this anymore. If I continue to think about it, I'll be going to heaven. Chapter 626. But recently, most of the private coal mines have been shut down. Uncle Lu's life isn't as comfortable as before. I heard that he plans to invest in other energy industries. From what I know, he bought a lot of shares in a gas station investment company. A few days ago, he went overseas to investigate some new energy technology called wind power. He came back from abroad this afternoon and invited some people to his cocktail party to catch up. My dad and I are going as well. Although his business doesn't overlap with my family's, people like us tend to stick together. I see. Chen Guang thought about it and decided to go talk to him. If it really didn't work out, he could only bring out the imperial sword that the elders had given him. He didn't believe that he couldn't suppress Lu Chao. Old men, you can't blame me for leaking the news. You guys are having a good time being a hands-off shopkeeper. Who's going to charge and break through the enemy lines while I'm at the front? I'm almost dragging Zhuo Wei down to the point that even his underwear has fallen off. My head is about to explode. If you guys don't say hello, I'll say hello myself, right? If the news really gets out, don't look for me. Go look for that Lu guy yourself. You know that I've been getting quite a lot of flack on the internet recently, right? Chen Guang asked. What? Who dares to flame you? I'll go beat the hell out of them. He didn't expect Wang Qing to explode. Chen Guang. Did you go to the primeval forest these past few days? Right now, with the overwhelming attacks on the internet, the power is not much different from directly appearing on the news broadcast, right? You actually don't know. Wang Qing really couldn't be blamed. After helping Xiao Tsong with the throne challenge, Wang Qing was sent to the deep mountains by his dad to be a supervisor. Today was his day off, and he had to go to Boss Lu's cocktail party. He only came back early in the morning. Ever since he stopped racing and started doing serious work, Wang Qing's life wasn't much better than Lu Fei and Zhong Bai's. He basically worked as a coolie for his family. It was easy to conquer a country, but difficult to defend it. The second and third generation would have to take over the job sooner or later. Of course, the elders couldn't let them be too free. After playing around, it was time to get down to business. Chen Guang and Wang Qing chatted briefly. Only then did Wang Qing realize that Chen Guang was in a terrible situation because of a paparazzi. However, Chen Guang also pointed out that Zhuo Wei's backer was Lu Chao, so things really became troublesome. Brother Guang, don't worry. I'll accept this. Although I didn't know about the relationship between Zhuo Wei and Uncle Lu, I'll ask Uncle Lu directly. If it's true, he'll at least give me some face. I'll put in a good word for you. Sister Lu Fei and Brother Zhong Bai will be there tonight. If my reputation alone isn't enough, then the reputation of a few families combined should be enough. Wang Qing said that he would pick him up at around 5 o'clock in the afternoon to go to Lu Chao's club. So this is your solution? Xian Qin leaned over and asked. Chen Guang leaned back and leaned comfortably on his leather sofa. Who doesn't have a backer these days? Since we don't want his life or money, then we'll compete with him on his backer. So you want to pry open his backer? Xian Qin asked again. Chen Guang snapped his fingers. That's right, but there's no reward. Looking at his smug look, Xian Qin rolled her eyes. She didn't ridicule him. Instead, she was looking forward to it in her heart. She really didn't know what would happen when that damn fatty suddenly found out that the backstage that he was most proud of had been overturned. On the other side, Zhuo Wei wasn't very happy either. Boss Lu actually said that he didn't have time to see him today, and that they could talk tomorrow. Zhuo Wei felt wronged. My people are all in the hospital, but I can't even see boss. I've wasted so many years helping you in the entertainment industry with 8 weekly. Without my secret help, would your Lucier culture be able to progress so smoothly? Of course, Zhuo Wei couldn't do anything about it. His relationship with Lu Chao couldn't be seen in the light. Many people could guess who his backer was, but he never had the chance to meet Lu Chao in public. Lu Chao had many industries, Other than materials, energy, and mineral resources, Lusher Culture was the most famous. This was a top large-scale management company in the country. Its business included film and television investment, film and television production, film and television distribution, variety production, cultural publishing, 3D animation, actor management, and so on. It had many artists under it, including A-list, B-list, and C-list artists. It could be considered one of the leading companies in the country. Lusher Culture was established by Lu Chao more than 10 years ago. After many years of development, and with Lu Chao's two-legged strategy, it had developed very smoothly. First, Lusher Culture used Lusher Culture to build an external framework. Then, Zhuo Wei and 8 Weeklies secretly provided intelligence support in the dark, including some publicity strategies. Zhuo Wei was in charge of all of them. For example, in a movie released by Lusher Culture, Zhuo Wei first smeared its competitors in the market, then used all kinds of insider information to interfere with the other party's publicity strategy. At the same time, he helped Lusher Culture's movie from a positive angle on the internet. A terrible movie that could blind people actually sold hundreds of millions of yuan at the box office. Although Lu Chao had now become a well-known private entrepreneur, his style of doing things had always been like this. He judged a hero by the results. So far, he had not gone astray. Usually, the local tyrants of the 5 capitals played their own games, and there were very few large-scale gatherings like wine parties. Only the second and third generations like Zhong Bai, Wang Qing, and Lu Fei liked to get together in private. However, the real leaders of the older generation were too busy with their own things. How could they have time to hold a party? Every time there was a big gathering, there must be a suitable reason. Otherwise, if you invited someone for a small matter, it would not be good for others to come, and it would make people unhappy. This time Lu Chao, who had just returned from abroad, could not wait to create a wine party. The reason was good. On the one hand, it was to receive the big shots from Yanjing. On the other hand, he had also gained a lot from his exploration of new energy abroad. He had reached a strategic cooperation agreement with a foreign company with strong technical strength. It was almost time to start. The purpose of him receiving the big shots from Yanjing was to get involved in the new energy development project of wind power in Sichuan province. The investment and potential profits involved in the whole big project were enough to make anyone tempted. If the huge investment of hundreds of billions of yuan could be successfully put into production and connected to the power grid, the economic benefits that could be generated in a year would definitely be tens of billions. Not only that, even if it was part of the bidding work of some equipment and buildings, the laying of the power grid and construction, and even the operation and maintenance work in the later stage, any small part of it would be a potential profit of billions. Although the whole thing was inevitably led by the people from Yanjing, how could the local snakes in Sichuan province not have a share of the profits? The specific game involved in this was huge, but today's wine party could be regarded as a more formal meeting between everyone. As the president of the Sichuan Energy Association, whether it was for himself or for the local tycoons related to the entire Sichuan province, Lu Chao had the obligation to stand up and take the lead. Although there might only be a few people who could really talk to the big shots in Yanjing, the others who were slightly familiar with the scene could say, "Sir, I met you at XX place before." Once these words were said, although it might not have much impact on the results of the negotiation, the relationship was different. China was a society with a network of relationships. A nod of acquaintance was a relationship, and so was a friendship of life and death. Just a flash of the face was also a relationship. A little relationship was better than nothing. On this side, just as Chen Guang and Xan Qin sat in Wang Qing's car and prepared to go to the club in the suburbs, on the other side, Lu Chao had already ordered people to wait in the club. He was a little sleepy and was wearing a suit as he reclined on the sofa in the lounge to take a nap. It had been less than 3 hours since he flew back from Europe, so he had not recovered from the jet lag at all. But it didn't matter. When the people came and needed him to appear, he only needed to get up and wash his face a little. Then, he could stand in the hall in high spirits. Therefore, successful people had their own reasons for success. Although Lu Chao was born in the wilderness and did not read many books, he was able to do well in the business world after the transition. It was not unrelated to his strong spirit and willpower. At about 5:30, his personal secretary, a blonde beauty who could speak fluent Mandarin, entered the lounge. She bent down and whispered in Lu Chao's ear, "Mr. Wang and Mr. Yin Si's car has arrived." Lu Chao suddenly opened his eyes. 2 seconds later, the hazy sleepiness in his eyes was swept away. He quickly got up and went to the bathroom to wipe his face with water. Then, he turned back and asked Sarna to help him fix his hair. A big boss with a majestic gait came back to life. "Old Wang and Old Yin, you two actually came together. Tell me, what were you two discussing behind my back?" Lu Chao walked straight to the hall of the club and welcomed Wang Guoxiong and Mr. Yin Si. In the hall, many people who were whispering to each other in groups of 3 to 5 also came over to greet them. "Greetings, Mr. Lu. Greetings, Mr. Wang. Greetings, Mr. Yin Si." The three of them simply nodded and smiled with the others. They waved and gathered on the sofa in the corner and sat opposite each other. The others didn't care about the arrogance of these three people and returned to their original seats. Even if the people sitting here were at least tens of millions of yuan, or people who held power in a certain county or city, in front of these three people, their status was not enough. They weren't qualified to sit at the same table as them. This was the status of the three of them in the Jianghu, at least in Sichuan province. Although Lu Chao, Wang Guoxiong, and Yin Si were not as domineering as a separatist region, they were at least people whose words carried enormous weight in the Jianghu. The reason they could not be separatist was because transportation and information technology were developed now. Local tyrants could not go against the people above them. The people in the Jianghu privately called the three heroes of Sichuan. "Go to hell. You're the one who's shameful." Wang Guoxiong laughed and joked with Lu Chao. He then cupped his hands at the middle-aged man in black behind Wang Guoxiong. "I haven't seen you for a few months. Mr. Tai's complexion looks better. Did your martial arts improve again?" The person who was called Mr. Tai also bowed politely to Wang Guoxiong. "Mr. Wang, you're too polite. At my age, I really don't dare to say that my martial arts have improved. If I take good care of my health, I'll be thankful if I can work for a few more years. I'm just afraid that when I'm old, Mr. Lu will see that I'm useless and send me flying with a kick." Lu Chao patted Mr. Tai's hand. "Old Tai, I don't like what you said. I owe you almost 7 or 8 or 9 lives. When you're old, I'll be old too. Us brothers should put down our airs and go sightseeing wherever we like." Seeing how close Lu Chao and Mr. Tai were, Wang Guoxiong and Yin Si were extremely envious. This Tai Xinju was a powerful person. It was said that he came from some Jianghu sect. He could split rocks with his bare hands and was very powerful. All these years, he had followed Lu Chao through wind and rain and saved Lu Chao's life many times. Even when he was besieged by several assassins abroad, he could carry Lu Chao and jump into the sea to escape. He could even swim more than 10 kilometers after being shot several times. The two of them didn't have a powerful bodyguard like Mr. Tai. If they really had such a person by their side, anyone would be willing to risk their lives to have a heart-to-heart with him. "By the way, you called all of us here. Is there really a plan for that?" After chatting for a while, Yin Si brought the topic back to the main topic. Lu Chao's expression changed. He first looked at Wang Guoxiong, then at Yin Si. He lowered his voice and said, "According to the information I've gathered, the new energy will be launched within half a year at the latest. Do you know who the representative from above is?" "Who?" "The grandson of the late Old Master Bai, the treasurer of the Old Masters. He's now the vice president of Tianjin Energy Group, and the third in command, young Master Bai Hua." The other two's eyes lit up. "Then we can really have a good talk." Chapter 627. Although it was impossible for Bai Hua to have the final say in such a big matter, he could represent the will of the upper echelons to a certain extent. His opinion had a high reference value. Since the three heroes of Sichuan wanted to intervene in this matter, it was necessary to communicate with Bai Hua. It was not difficult to explain why the three big shots were gathered here to wait for someone who was considered a junior to them. Brother Guang, when you see Uncle Lu later, if you have any ideas, talk to him directly. However, based on my understanding of Uncle Lu, he might not be that easy to talk to. But don't worry, if he doesn't listen, even if I have to face him head-on, I will help you to the end. I know Zhuo Wei. He's not a good person. If he didn't mess with me before, I would have beaten that scum to death long ago. Before getting out of the car, Wang Qing patted his chest and vowed to Chen Guang. However, Chen Guang waved his hand. Forget it. Since Lu Chao's position is similar to your father's, and he has a good relationship with your family, why would I make things difficult for you? When the time comes, don't say anything. Remember to tell your father, I will handle it myself. As for the negotiation with Lu Chao, Chen Guang was very confident. He didn't believe that a mere Zhuo Wei and a paparazzi would mean much to Lu Chao. Lu Chao would never dare to provoke the plans of so many old men, just for Zhuo Wei. If they really couldn't come to an agreement, he would call Secretary Chu in front of Lu Chao and use this trump card. He didn't believe that Lu Chao wouldn't kneel. Of course, unless it was absolutely necessary, Chen Guang didn't want to expose this matter. If he really angered Lu Chao, the old men would be happy to see him suffer. They would even be happy that I helped them attract the attention. Since you guys have done this, don't blame me for returning the favor. In other words, if Lu Chao knew about this matter, it wouldn't be a big problem. If he didn't want to die, or if he was sane enough, he wouldn't leak the information. That's not good, right? I'm afraid, if the negotiation breaks down, other than energy and mining, Uncle Lu also has a company called Lusher Culture. 8 Weekly is very useful to him. You know, Lusher Culture? F*CK, it can't be it's his? Although Chen Guang did not pay much attention to the news of the entertainment industry, he had heard of the famous Lusher Culture. After all, many A-list film and television stars were artists under this company. Many of the popular films and TV series and movies were also produced by this company. Wang Qing nodded. I just thought of it, so it doesn't seem that easy to negotiate. It doesn't matter. I'm not joking with you. I really have my own ways. Don't speak carelessly when the time comes. In the end, Chen Guang decided to face it head-on. There was no need to drag Wang Qing, a junior, into it. Seeing that he was serious, Wang Qing had no choice but to say, All right, I'll listen to you. Xian Qin, who was at the side, said somewhat impatiently, Why are you speaking so much nonsense? This Lu Chao is really untactful. He became obedient after a beating. Wang Qing sucked in a breath of cold air. Io, who knows where this little girl came from? You can't just say things like that. All right, I admit it. Uncle Lu's status in Great Chuan is actually slightly higher than my father's. It's mainly because Uncle Lu has an expert by his side. We all call him Uncle Tai. He's really powerful. Really powerful? How powerful? Xian Qin blinked her eyes cutely. He knows the kind of internal energy that is written in wuxia novels. I once saw him smash a big wooden table with one slap. He's really powerful. Puffed. Xian Qin curled her lips in disdain. She didn't need Wang Qing to say anything more. She already knew who this Uncle Tai was. Needless to say, he was most likely a disciple of some small sect. He had no hope in the path of martial arts, so he came out to do odd jobs to earn some money. On one hand, he could subsidize the sect, and on the other, he could make a living. This kind of person was mysterious in the eyes of outsiders. He had the aura of a peerless master. However, as a person in the circle, Xian Qin was very clear. Any martial artist who had reached the level of bone strength would almost never run out to be a bodyguard. It would be amazing if that Uncle Tai had reached the level of muscle strength. He probably hadn't even reached the level of internal strength, and was still at the stage of external strength. You! Wang Qing was a little embarrassed by Xian Qin's curled lips and rolled eyes. If it wasn't for Chen Guang's sake, he would have flipped out at Xian Qin. Chen Guang understood Xian Qin's thoughts. He patted Wang Qing's shoulder and said, Don't worry about her. She's been pampered since childhood and has a strange temper. Let's not talk anymore and go straight in. After the three of them entered the hall, many people came up to greet Wang Qing warmly. Although Comrade Wang was of low seniority, he was Wang Guoxiong's son after all. Most people still had to give him some face. Although Chen Guang had a resounding reputation outside, it was unexpected that not many people here recognized him. It was only because he and Xian Qin came in together with Wang Qing that they barely managed to catch a glimpse of him. Perhaps there were more gazes on Xian Qin than on Chen Guang. Of course, such a beautiful girl would attract attention no matter where she was. "Hello, Uncle Lu, Uncle Yin-si." Wang Qing greeted them as he approached Lu Chao and the others' table. Wang Guoxiong nodded at Wang Qing. "The sun rose from the west today. I didn't expect you to be here first. Go and find a place to sit. I'll talk to your Uncle Lu and Uncle Yin-si." Wang Guoxiong stretched his neck again and noticed that Chen Guang was standing behind Wang Qing. He stood up and said, "Little Chen, you're here too? Come, old Lu, old Yin. Let me introduce you. This is Chen Guang, my son's friend. He's a young talent." Wang Guoxiong had always remembered Chen Guang's favor. Perhaps if it wasn't for Chen Guang, Wang Qing would still be addicted to racing and might have died in a car accident. Fourth Master Yin and Lu Chao also stood up and shook hands with Chen Guang for Wang Guoxiong's sake. Fourth Master Yin said, "I know you. You've been quite famous recently. You're almost the #1 internet celebrity in our country." Lu Chao's eyes lit up. "#1 internet celebrity in our country? Is it that amazing?" Fourth Master Yin said, "Of course. You don't know how amazing he is now. I heard from my son that a random post of his on Weibo would get hundreds of thousands of replies. He's very famous." Lu Chao turned to look at Chen Guang. "He's quite amazing. Has he signed a contract with a management company?" Fourth Master Yin rolled his eyes. "Old Lu, don't even think about recruiting him. Chen Guang and that kid from the Tang family have teamed up to start a company. It's only been 2 days since it opened. Don't even think about recruiting people for your Lu Shi. That's a pity. But who knows what will happen in the future? We can keep in touch," Lu Chao said with a smile. Fourth Master Yin shook his head. "Old Lu, give up. There's no chance." Lu Chao was confused. "Why? Old Yin, why do you sound so weird?" "It's not that I'm weird, but Zhuowei has been making a lot of noise on the internet these past 2 days. He just can't get along with little Chen," Fourth Master Yin said with a wink. Compared to the other two, Fourth Master Yin knew the situation the best. This was also because his son happened to be Chen Guang's fan. He had been fighting for Chen Guang at the dinner table for the past 2 days, and almost begged Chen Guang to help his idol out. Fourth Master Yin was also a shrewd person, and he wouldn't visit for no reason. Chen Guang and Wang Qing's relationship had been going on for a long time, and the few of them knew about it. However, they had never heard of Wang Qing bringing Chen Guang into their circle. However, Chen Guang came here today. Moreover, Fourth Master Yin knew about the dirty relationship between Zhuowei and Lu Chao. Therefore, he guessed Chen Guang's intention when he saw Chen Guang. Thus, he took the initiative to expose the matter, which could be considered as doing Chen Guang a favor. Lu Chao was stunned at first, but he quickly reacted. He looked at Chen Guang awkwardly and said, "I really don't know about this. I've been overseas for the past few days, and just got off the plane this afternoon. Little Chen, can you tell me about it?" As he spoke, he got up from the couch and patted on Chen Guang's shoulder before he led the latter to the side. He got up from the sofa as he spoke. He patted Chen Guang's shoulder and led him to the side in a friendly manner. "Let them talk first. It's not a big deal." Wang Guoxiong looked at their backs and said indifferently, "Wang Qing, you can go walk around with this young lady." Wang Qing nodded. He turned around and sat in a booth a few meters away. Xian Qin raised her head and glanced at Mr. Tai, who was standing behind the sofa. A playful smile appeared in her eyes. As she had guessed, he was an insider. It was just that he was a little weak. He was only at muscle force, and was far from the pinnacle. Judging from his age, he would probably stay at this level for the rest of his life. Tai Xinju's heart was in turmoil. He broke out in a cold sweat when the young lady glanced at him. Don't be fooled by Xian Qin's inferiority before Chen Guang. She didn't even dare to compare herself to Wen. But no matter how desolate the Thousand Despair sect was, they were still part of the inner circle of cultivators. So even if they cooperated with the myriad Flower Valley to produce pellets, it could be considered a specialty in the underworld. Tai Xinju's background was much worse than Xianqin's. Xianqin did not know who he was, and could only see through his cultivation. However, Tai Xinju recognized Xianqin at first glance, the genius disciple of the Thousand Absolutes sect. A few years ago, the Thousand Absolutes sect had invited many people from the Jianghu to attend the open selection of the first disciple. At that time, Tai Xinju was fortunate enough to be there with the senior experts of the sect. At that time, he had seen the 15-year-old Xianqin, who was at the pinnacle of muscle force, suppress all her peers. At that time, the people from the weak sects were shocked by Xianqin's talent. Now that a few years had passed, Tai Xinju could feel that Xianqin's cultivation was unfathomable. It was obvious that her cultivation was already above bone force. As the precious first disciple of the Thousand Absolutes sect, why was she following behind the young man named Chen Guang like a follower? This kind of shameful thing should be done by low-level disciples with no potential. What was going on with her? Who was that young man named Chen Guang? It seemed that there was something going on between him and Mr. Liu. This was going to be troublesome. Tai Xinju began to feel nervous. At this time, Chen Guang and Lu Chao had already started a simple negotiation face-to-face. Chapter 628. I'm sorry, little Chen. I'm not too sure about the current situation. Please tell me everything in detail. Lu Chao didn't realize the seriousness of the problem. He only thought that Zhuo Wei and Chen Guang had a simple quarrel. As he spoke, Lu Chao looked at Chen Guang casually, but he was actually carefully sizing him up. Secretly, he thought more highly of this young man. There weren't many young people in Dechuan province who could chat with him without batting an eyelid. At least Chen Guang was one of them. But he didn't know that in Yinjing, not to mention Lu Chao, I've been chatting happily with people who are many times older than you, okay? The old man had a big heart. That was how confident he was. Then I'll get straight to the point. I heard that Zhuo Wei and 8 Weekly's backer is you, Mr. Liu, right? Lu Chao shook his head. No, to be precise, I'm the boss of 8 Weekly. Zhuo Wei is considered to be working for me. He only has shares, and I give him a bonus every year. Lu Chao admitted that he was a hoodlum and very generous. That's even better. Chen Guang grinned and told Lu Chao everything that had happened in the past few days. From Zhuo Xiaowei's rudeness in the parking lot, to Zhuo Wei's failure to bring his bodyguards to the press conference, to the first time he sent someone to spy on them that night, and then to the overwhelming amount of scandals on the internet. Then, there were the negotiations between Chen Guang and Zhuo Wei, from 2 million to 20 million, and then to 30 million. In the end, everyone from 8 Weekly was sent to the hospital yesterday. Zhuo Wei was probably a commander without an army now. Chen Guang didn't hide anything from Lu Chao. Since he was the real boss of 8 Weekly, these things would sooner or later reach his ears from other sources. Lu Chao's brows gradually furrowed. He could imagine how much pain Zhuo Wei was in. Although he didn't interfere with the actual management of 8 Weekly, Lu Chao could roughly estimate how much money 8 Weekly had invested. It was my negligence that something like this happened. In that case, I apologize to you on behalf of Zhuo Wei. Lu Chao pondered for a moment and finally said. Chen Guang raised his eyebrows. It seemed that Lu Chao was indeed planning to help Zhuo Wei with this matter. Chen Guang looked at Lu Chao playfully. Oh, that's it. Lu Chao was a little unhappy. In his understanding, as long as he apologized, even if the grudge was as big as the sky, it would be over. Looking at Dechuan province and even the whole country, his apology was usually enough. Because of Wang Guoxiong and his son, I have given you enough face. You should know when to stop, right? After all, this wasn't a big deal. Which celebrity hadn't been defamed before? In the past, when I was defamed by others, who dared or had the ability to find me. Artists and actors should have the self-awareness of actors, and shouldn't think of themselves as important just because they're famous. It seemed like Lu Chao didn't know that Chen Guang was Jin Shiyue's boyfriend. Of course, even if he knew, it wouldn't be a problem. His status as the emperor's son-in-law hadn't been decided yet, so he didn't have the ability to ride roughshod over him. Of course, I'll talk to Zhuo Wei later and ask him to restrain himself. Let's end this matter here. What else do you want? Lu Chao was getting more and more impatient. Alright, we still have things to do. You and Lil Wang can talk among yourselves. We have a very important guest to receive later. Seeing that Lu Chao was Wang Qing's elder, Chen Guang was still polite. However, his attitude seemed like he couldn't continue the conversation if he didn't show some sincerity. Mr. Lu, don't be in a hurry to leave. Since I'm here, I have to tell you everything. My attitude is that it's not enough for you to greet him and restrain yourself. Even if he stops now, my reputation will still be in tatters, right? I'm afraid he'll have to come out and publicly apologize. Chen Guang said slowly, word by word. Lu Chao, who was about to turn and leave, stopped in his tracks and turned back. Lu Chao was so angry that he almost laughed. Young man, don't be too rash with your words and actions. Leave some leeway so that we can meet again in the future. Chen Guang shrugged. That's what I said to Zhuo Wei before. But he didn't want to give me any leeway. Also, it was your people who were causing trouble from the beginning. Now you're telling me to give him some leeway? Lu Chao turned around abruptly and used his fingers to lightly tap on the glass of the bar counter. His expression turned cold. The most I can do is make Zhuo Wei shut up, but I can't make him apologize. 8 weeklies people have already been injured by you, and I'm not asking you for medical fees. Moreover, if Zhuo Wei publicly apologizes to you now, it'll be a huge blow to 8 weeklies' reputation in the industry. Do you understand? Actually, I've already given in to you. Even if I stop now, the millions that Zhuo Wei previously invested would have gone down the drain. Chen Guang was almost defeated by his logic. It was your people who wanted to cause trouble for me. You spent money to find people to slander me and force me to submit. You still have the cheek to say that your money has gone down the drain? You're quite thick-skinned. I don't think I forced Zhuo Wei to make things difficult for me, right? No matter how much money your people invested and how many injuries they suffered, they only have themselves to blame. You can't blame me, can you? Chen Guang rubbed his nose, and his expression turned colder. Lu Chao finally waved his hand impatiently. Alright, that's it. You youngsters can play by yourselves. After he finished speaking, he quickly turned around and quickly returned to the sofa to sit down. Wang Guoxiong noticed that the atmosphere was a little off. He wanted to say something, but Lu Chao took the initiative to change the topic. He looked at his watch first. Mr. Bai will be here in about 10 minutes. Where were we? Wang Guoxiong and Yin Laosi knew that he didn't want to talk about Chen Guang anymore. They sighed in their hearts, but they didn't say anything else. Standing up, Wang Guoxiong called Wang Qing back and patted on the latter's shoulder before giving a signal to his son. Wang Qing, bring Chen Guang to the inner field to play. There's something that you youngsters like to play there. Wang Guoxiong blinked. He wanted to get involved in this matter, but now wasn't the time. He hinted to Wang Qing that they should discuss it privately after they were done with business. However, Wang Qing shook his head slightly and mouthed to his father. Brother Guang told us not to talk. Wang Guoxiong was a little surprised, but he didn't show it on his face. He nodded slightly to show that he understood. He then sat down and continued to talk about the new energy project with Fourth Master Yin and Lu Chao. Chen Guang glanced at the three of them from afar. A cold glint flickered in his eyes. For a split second, he almost wanted to attack Lu Chao. However, he felt that it was meaningless to do, so as it would only make things difficult for Wang Qing. Since that's the case, don't blame me for putting up a front. You guys can talk about business first. I'll get Secretary Chu to talk to you on behalf of the old master. You'll know how it feels then. Xan Qing glanced at Lu Chao but didn't say anything. Instead, she went to sit beside Chen Guang and Wang Qing's table. She leaned against Chen Guang and fiddled with her fingers in boredom. Among everyone present, Lu Chao's bodyguard, Tai Xinju, was the one who felt the most uneasy. Xan Qing's calm gaze was especially terrifying in Tai Xinju's eyes. He turned his head slightly to look at Lu Chao, who was chatting happily with the other two men. Then he looked at Xan Qing, who was leaning against Chen Guang. Tai Xinju was having a headache. What exactly did you talk about with that young man? She's the Thousand Despair Sect's senior sister. If anything happens, I won't be able to protect you this time. Brother Guang, did it break down? Wang Qing asked in a low voice. Chen Guang grunted. It did. My head hurts. Wang Qing rubbed his forehead. There's nothing to worry about. You should have told me first. I was mentally prepared, but it's not a big deal. Chen Guang was calm. After all, he had decided to use his trump card. After a while, Lu Fei and Zhong Bai arrived at almost the same time. Seeing that Chen Guang was also there, they gathered together and chatted happily. Lu Fei in particular dragged Chen Guang to a large sofa nearby and made fun of a beautiful girl like Xianqin. Then, she pressed herself against Chen Guang's body and groped him. Chen Guang had been longing for Lu Fei for a long time. It was rare to see Lu Fei again, and now that she was secretly touching his back and butt, his hands were no longer honest. He cast aside his worries and was so happy that he didn't know what was going on. Among everyone present, only Wang Qing felt the most pained. He wondered where Chen Guang's courage came from. He had just broken down, but he had completely forgotten about it. Lu Fei and Zhong Bai seemed to want to ask about Chen Guang being defamed on the internet these past few days. But Chen Guang stopped them. Compared to Lu Chao, whether it was Wang Qing, Lu Fei, or Zhong Bai, they were all juniors. Juniors' face was not that useful in front of their elders, and they didn't want to make things more difficult for others. Right. I heard that today's reception is mainly for a person about our age from Yanjing. Who is it? Zhong Bai asked. Wang Qing thought for a moment. I think it's the vice president of Tianjin Energy. He's quite a powerful person, and he's almost as famous as Brother Shao Kai. Chen Guang's heart skipped a beat. Bai Hua. Yes, it's Bai Hua. Brother Guang, you know him too? I thought you didn't care about these things at all. Wang Qing was surprised. Zhong Bai said, I heard that Bai Hua is quite handsome. Lu Fei spat. How can he be more handsome than Chen Guang? Yes, your brother Guang is the most handsome man in the world. So handsome that it's tragic. Zhong Bai rolled his eyes. Chen Guang was in no mood to pay attention to these people's jesting. Instead, he was sweating profusely. The moment Bai Hua's name was mentioned, he was reminded of his unbearable experience. Seriously, he was tricked by Lin Jingwei. Cross-dressing twice, and the second time, he was seen through by Jiang Yage. Now that he was back in Wujing, he thought that his interaction with Brother Bai would end here, and there would be no more opportunities to interact with him in the future. In the end, why did you come to Wujing? And of all things, today's reception was to be the one to receive you? He was a little tempted to run away, but he felt that something was wrong. He was walking upright, so why should he be afraid of Bai Hua? Strange, why am I already standing at the entrance? Forget it, don't bother about these details. The old man would leave first. Seeing this guy annoyed him. It's better to hide outside and wait for their reception to end before looking for Lu Chao in private. Chapter 629. Chen Guang? Why are you here? Chen Guang's expression froze for about 5 seconds when he saw Bai Hua enter the room. Then he put on a smile that said, What a coincidence. Brother Bai Hua. I'm here with my friends for a gathering. What are you? Bai Hua stepped forward and patted Chen Guang's shoulder before pushing him inside. What a coincidence. I was also invited here by someone. I was just about to have a chat with you when I came to the 5 capital. Chat about what? At this moment, Chen Guang was baffled. Bai Hua's expression suddenly became serious. What do you think? I entrusted Shirwa to you, and this is how you respond. You idiot. You actually believe in those despicable and malicious rumors on the internet? Are you retarded? Chen Guang rolled his eyes. They might not be familiar with each other, but with Su Tao's intelligence and status, it's impossible that he couldn't see through such malicious intent, right? Screw you. If I really believed you, would I still be talking to you like this? All right, that's all I have to say. Before I set off, the elders had a quiet chat with me. You still lack experience in these matters. The most important matter that I have come to the 5 capitals is not the matter that I will discuss with Mr. Lu later, but your matter. That's all I have to say. It's good that you understand. We can talk privately later. Bai Hua said as he put his hand on Chen Guang's shoulder and walked inside. On the other side, Lu Chao, Wang Guoxiong, and Fourth Master Yin had already gathered together with a group of people. Lu Chao felt uncomfortable when he saw Chen Guang and Bai Hua being so familiar with each other. However, he was still a veteran and immediately squeezed out a smile on his face. "Mr. Bai, why did you come here directly? Please take a seat." Everyone else in the room also came up to greet them enthusiastically. In order to get a share of this huge project, they couldn't be too enthusiastic. Bai Hua, on the other hand, wasn't arrogant and returned the greeting. In terms of dealing with people, he didn't have the slightest bit of immaturity. On the contrary, he could make everyone he talked to feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. "Chen Guang, are you interested in listening to us? Shall we go together?" Bai Hua turned around and asked Chen Guang, who was beside him. Chen Guang waved his hand. "Forget it. I'm not interested." Chen Guang ran away as soon as he finished speaking. He only cared about his own matters right now. What Bai Hua wanted to discuss with these people had nothing to do with him. Once they were done with their discussion, Chen Guang would tell him everything. "Since you're here to help me solve my problem, it just so happens that the main characters are here today. Let's have a good talk." Bai Hua and the group of people from the 5 capitals walked towards the conference room. Along the way, Lu Chao casually asked, "Mr. Bai seems to be quite familiar with Chen Guang?" Bai Hua replied without hesitation, "It's not that we're very familiar with each other. It's more like we're brothers. I didn't expect to meet him here today." "I see." Lu Chao gradually felt that something was wrong and began to regret not having a good talk with Chen Guang. On the other side, Tai Xinju had something he wanted to say to Lu Chao, but he couldn't find an opportunity to do so. Even after everyone had entered the conference room, Tai Xinju still couldn't open his mouth. "Mr. Tai." Tai Xinju watched as the conference room door closed. Just as he came back to his senses, he heard Xanqin's crisp voice coming from behind him. Tai Xinju turned around stiffly and cupped his hands towards Xanqin. Tai Xinju of the Iron Arm sect greets senior sister Xian of the Thousand Despair sect. With Tai Xinju's age, he could be considered Xanqin's uncle. However, he knew the rules of the Thousand Despair sect. Among the younger generation of disciples, strength was everything. Xianqin was fully deserving of the title of senior sister of the Thousand Despair sect. Tai Xinju also knew the rules of the underworld. Strength was everything, so he addressed Xanqin as senior sister Xian. Xanqin raised her eyebrows. Iron Arm sect. She was a little unfamiliar with the name of the sect. She couldn't figure it out even after thinking for a long time. Tai Xinju didn't feel offended at all. He continued to bow and said, "My sect was founded less than 100 years ago by Grandmaster Taizhan. My words carry little weight, so it's normal that senior sister Xian doesn't know about it. However, during the Thousand Despair sect's disciple selection a few years ago, I was one of the people who attended the ceremony with the elders of the sect when senior sister Xian ascended to the position of senior sister Xian." "Is that so? Then Xanqin greets you." Although there were at least 1,000 people who attended the ceremony, it was still a friendship. Xanqin's attitude towards Tai Xinju became slightly more amiable. Tai Xinju immediately felt the pressure on him lessen, and he felt much more relaxed. "Are you Lu Chao's bodyguard?" Xanqin asked again. Replying senior sister Xian, "That is indeed the case." "That's good. Go back and tell Lu Chao to be sensible, and ask him to ask Zhuwei to apologize to Chen Guang immediately. If it wasn't for Chen Guang stopping me time and time again, Zhuwei would have been a dead man. However, I don't know how long I can endure it. You know the rules of Jianghu. Either you don't take action, or you take action to eliminate the root of the problem." Xanqin turned around and left after she finished speaking. Tai Xinju struggled to hold the door frame with his hands. His legs were weak and he was shocked. This little girl was definitely less than 20 years old, but the aura of inner strength that she deliberately released just now was the true peak of bone strength. Even the sect-guarding elders of the Iron Arm sect, who were cultivating in seclusion, were not as strong as her. The strength of the rich and powerful sects was really terrifying. If Tai Xinju knew that Chen Guang's biggest backer in the inner strength world was not Xi and Qin, but the One family's Wenwen, who had passed the painting scroll to Chen Guang, he would probably be so scared that he would personally kill Lu Chao. On the other side, Chen Guang was chatting with Lu Fei, Zhong Bai, and Wang Qing. I've heard of Bai Hua's name many times before, but today is the first time I've seen him. He seems to be quite powerful, Wang Qing said with some envy. He was quite envious of Bai Hua's general demeanor, but he really couldn't learn it. Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei, who were at the peak of power, were different from Zhong Bai, Lu Fei and Wang Qing. In this country, power and money were not absolutely linked or equal. But power was definitely more useful than money. What's so powerful about him? Little Kai is not worse than him. We are all the same age, and we have Little Kai in the 5 capitals. As Tang Xiaokai's childhood friend, Zhong Bai had a different view. Lu Fei said, Little Kai in the south and Little Bai in the north. Both of them are quite outstanding. But I don't like Bai Hua. I think he is too pretentious. Little Kai is more pleasing to the eye. Chen Guang coughed lightly, and Lu Fei immediately added, but in our Chen Guang Little Kai, Bai Hua, and the others will all serve as foils for our racing god. Zhong Bai and Wang Qing covered their faces in shame. Sister Lu Fei, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Come to think of it, are you 2 real men showing off your love in front of us? What? Not convinced? Lu Fei asked again. Convinced. Totally convinced. Zhong Bai and Wang Qing nodded repeatedly. After all, the meeting did not last long. After about an hour, everyone came out. Today was only the preliminary exchange between the 2 sides. Companies and investors who were interested in participating had reported their names. Bai Hua asked his personal secretary, Song Ting, to write down the information on the spot, and he briefly introduced the project outline. For such a large project, the leading role would inevitably be played by Tianjin Energy and the relevant ministries. The local forces of the 5 capitals would more or less have a share of the pie in the middle, but how to discuss the cooperation, how to distribute the resources, and whether there would be other people involved, were all matters for the next step. But overall, everyone had a good talk today. All right everyone, you don't have to worry about me. Go busy yourselves. I will go and have a chat with Chen Guang. I heard that his new company has encountered some trouble recently, and I have to give him some advice. By the way, we are all heroes of Great Sichuan, so please help my brother Chen Guang. Before the meeting ended, Bai Hua did not forget to pull some strings for Chen Guang. Lu Chao, on the other hand, had a bad feeling in his heart. What kind of trouble could Chen Guang have encountered? Wasn't it caused by his subordinate, Zhuo Wei? Of course. Since Chen Guang is your friend, of course, we will help him if we can. Lu Chao wiped his sweat and lowered his head. Wang Guoxiong and 4th Master Yin looked at each other. Looking at Lu Chao's deflated expression, they found it funny, but they were also worried that the project would be ruined because of this. They were in a mess. When everyone walked out of the door, Bai Hua called out to Chen Guang again. Chen Guang, come over here. Chen Guang stood up and walked over. What? There are a lot of people outside. Give me some face and speak politely to me. Bai Hua joked, then pulled Chen Guang in front of everyone. Just now, I mentioned your matter to Mr. Lu and the others. Don't worry, Mr. Lu, Mr. Wang, and Mr. Yin are all big shots in Great Sichuan. There's nothing they can't handle. I'll settle it for you just like that. Chen Guang glanced at Lu Chao. Seeing his awkward expression, he crooked his face. Brother Bai, don't say that. There's really nothing in Great Sichuan that Mr. Lu can't handle. I won't hide it from you. Let's talk over there. Over there. Seeing that Chen Guang was going to reveal the plaque in front of everyone, Lu Chao could no longer stay calm. He hurriedly came over and led Chen Guang and Bai Hua to the side. Then, he desperately winked at Wang Guoxiong, asking him to send the others away. One mustn't wash one's dirty linen in public. This time, he was really going to lose face. Bai Hua's heart was full of doubts, but he had accepted the task of helping Chen Guang solve his problems. Perhaps the elders felt that the matter was almost settled, or perhaps someone finally understood Chen Guang's personality and knew that if he didn't give him the slightest bit of support, he would quit. In the end, they sent Bai Hua. Alright, I'm a little tired of this. Let's not beat around the bush. I'll make it short. Brother Bai Hua, the one who's been spreading rumors on the internet, sending people to secretly take pictures of me, and spreading rumors on the internet that I'm wrong is Zhuo Wei and his 8-weekly magazine. Do you know Zhuo Wei? The three of them walked to a corner and Chen Guang spoke. Lu Chao was a little helpless, but he forced himself to calm down. Little Chen, don't be like this. We can talk things out. Bai Hua ignored Lu Chao and thought for a while. The paparazzi who chased a car and killed the singer Zhen Jinru more than a decade ago? Chen Guang nodded. That's him. He's doing very well now. He's known as China's #1 paparazzi and the underground emperor of the entertainment industry. He can call the wind and summon the rain. Isn't he the one who targeted me and asked me to pay a protection fee of 30 million? If I didn't pay, it would be like what you see now, right? F***ck. He's courting death. Bai Hua rarely used profanity, but this time, he was truly enraged. When I was young, I loved listening to Zhen Jinru's songs. But when she died, I was only 10 years old, so I didn't really care about it. F***ck. 10 years later, this scumbag really wants to overturn the heavens? Who gave him the guts? The underground emperor? 30 million? Lu Chao didn't even have the chance to explain. No, it's not that exaggerated. However, Chen Guang paid no attention to him. He looked at Lu Chao and said word by word. The one who gave him the guts is the dragon head of the Great River, Mr. Lu. Don't you know? The boss behind China's #1 paparazzi team is Lu Culture's boss, Lu Chao, Mr. Lu. Interesting. Bai Hua said as he turned to look at Lu Chao. He was organizing his words in his mind. At the same time, he was already weighing the elder's determination and attitude towards Chen Guang. Lu Chao was a big boss. This was without a doubt. He had deep roots in Sichuan province, and might have some connections in the upper echelons. If they wanted to touch him, they might have to move the whole body. But no matter how big the matter was, it couldn't be bigger than the elder's plan this time. If it was really necessary, the elders wouldn't mind sorting out all the connections Lu Chao had. Even if it was a big tree, they would be able to uproot it. Mr. Lu, this time, you've gotten yourself involved in a big matter that you can't touch. This really isn't a pot that a mere big boss of Sichuan can handle. No one in the whole country can handle this black pot. Chapter 630. Mr. Lu, although I'm here for official business and shouldn't meddle in other people's business, Zhuo Wei and Bajou are being too overbearing, right? Bai Hua hesitated for a moment, but he decided not to mention the elder's attitude. He wanted to see what Lu Chao was up to. Lu Chao wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He knew that he was on the edge of a cliff. He felt that it wasn't that he couldn't afford to offend Bai Hua. It was just that the entire Sichuan Energy Association was trying to get involved in the new energy project under his leadership. If he offended Bai Hua because of this matter, he would have to go back and tell those old men, who regarded him as a treasure. If he ended up causing a huge commotion in the project to go down the drain, he would definitely be embarrassed in the future. Mr. Bai, don't worry. Chen Guang, I'll definitely give you a satisfactory explanation. Lu Chao forced himself to calm down. Chen Guang raised his eyebrows. It didn't seem to be interesting enough. Lu Chao knew what he wanted, but he still didn't ask Zhuo Wei to apologize publicly despite Bai Hua's pressure. Instead, he used this so-called explanation to fool Chen Guang. He was probably waiting for the matter to blow over. Something's wrong with old Lu. He's actually sweating. Wang Guoxiong, who was secretly observing the corner, said to Fourth Master Yin. Fourth Master Yin nodded. Something's wrong. I've never seen old Lu like this before. I've tried to persuade him, but we can't make our relationship too stiff. We're all brothers, so there's no need to cause trouble because of a small fry like Zhuo Wei. Fourth Master Yin said helplessly. That's why I wanted to expose him first. Old Lu has been living too smoothly these past few years, so he's getting cocky. Fourth Master Yin saw through it. He didn't think about it. Since the Jin family's granddaughter publicly revealed her relationship with Chen Guang, this matter is already set in stone. We're businessmen now, so there's no need to risk our lives to make money like before. Maybe he doesn't care about this kind of thing. After all, Zhuowei usually takes care of these things for him. He just needs to collect the money. Wang Guoxiong nodded and walked over. When he got closer, he deliberately raised his voice and shouted, "How's the discussion going?" It wasn't a big deal. Harmony breeds wealth. Chen Guang turned to look at Wang Guoxiong and smiled. "Uncle Wang, it went well." Unexpectedly, Bai Hua seemed to be really angry. "I don't think it's good enough. How should I explain it? I'll have to trouble Mr. Liu to give me a proper explanation. Don't blame me for being overbearing. I, Bai Hua, am not the type of person to bully others. Furthermore, Mr. Liu is my elder. It's just that Zhuowei's actions are truly infuriating. If Mr. Liu is unwilling to cut off your own wrists, I, Bai Hua, don't mind doing it for you." Since Lu Chao had spoken to this point, Bai Hua had already made his stance clear. Although he had restrained himself and didn't use the name of the elders, speaking to Lu Chao in such a manner as a member of the younger generation was extremely impolite. Wang Guoxiong felt a chill run down his spine as he listened. Previously, everyone thought that Bai Hua had said that Chen Guang was his brother because he was being polite. But now it was clear that Bai Hua was declaring war. He couldn't help but anxiously look at Lu Chao. "Old Lu, why are you still hesitating? At this time, if you don't make up your mind to clean up your own mess, I'm afraid you'll drag all of us down with you." "Old Lu, Mr. Bai is right. There are some things that Zhuowei has done that are a bit excessive. He must pay the price. Just like that Su Lijing from Gokyo University, right?" Wang Guoxiong lightly patted Lu Chao's shoulder, but he didn't say anything. He pointed out Su Lijing's matter to remind Lu Chao, "Old Lu, that you must remain calm and not follow in Su Lijing's footsteps." At the same time, he was also reminding Lu Chao not to think that besides Bai Hua in front of everyone, there was still Wu Shan behind Chen Guang. Although everyone was trying to make a name for themselves, there were still some shady things in the past. Now some industries weren't so bright, and Wu Shan couldn't be ignored. Lu Chao understood what Wang Guoxiong meant, and he broke out in a cold sweat. It seemed that he had really underestimated Chen Guang. Black, white, and economic. In black, Chen Guang had a friendship with Wang Guoxiong and his son, who were about the same status as him. Wang Guoxiong owed him a favor. In white, it was rumored that he had a close relationship with Wu Shan, who was in charge of politics and law in Dechuan province. In politics, he had a special relationship with the Jin family, and now he had a close relationship with Bai Hua, who was the second and third generation of the old master. In terms of economics, the new energy project that everyone was very concerned about was led by Bai Hua. In addition, his company also had the backing of the Tang family's genius Tang Xiaokai. With all these factors added together, Chen Guang's identity was definitely not a simple internet celebrity or artist. He clearly represented a terrifying force that Lu Chao couldn't contend with. Even if he brought out his own backing, it might not be enough. If the two sides really fell out, Lu Chao was afraid that his backing might even choose to sacrifice the rook to protect the king. Scary. Many things were like this. When you couldn't figure them out, they would never know how powerful it was. But once they understood it, those seemingly profound principles were nothing more than a thin layer of window paper. Once it was pierced, one would be able to see the shadows of swords and sabers behind the paper window. The only difference was whether the person involved really had the heart to pay attention to the problem and the person, and whether they could really pierce through this layer of paper. Wang Guoxiong and Fourth Master Yin didn't guess wrongly. Lu Chao was indeed a little arrogant. Now that he was suddenly awakened, Lu Chao felt as if he was suddenly enlightened. His inflated thoughts instantly fell to the bottom of the valley. When he looked at Chen Guang again, it was as if he was looking at a dreadful monster. Even if he couldn't figure out why Chen Guang would suddenly appear out of nowhere and climb to the top, he still couldn't figure it out. However, the situation was stronger than him. He knew that he was overestimating himself. From the beginning to the end, Chen Guang's words weren't overbearing anymore. He also didn't think that his relationship with Bai Hua was as good as what he was showing now. Bai Hua's attitude was most likely due to the orders of the old masters. It was impossible for him to be deeply grateful to Bai Hua. Everyone was just doing their own things. Tai Xinju had also been paying attention to the situation over there. He had followed Lu Chao for dozens of years, but he rarely saw Mr. Lu in such a dilemma. Lu Chao was indeed having a hard time right now. Once he realized his situation, he felt a lingering fear. But he also knew that he had to show an appropriate attitude. He couldn't try to fool them anymore. Otherwise, the next step would be a bottomless abyss. However, they were still outside, and there were many people paying attention to this place. If there was no one around, he might be willing to bow his head and admit defeat. He could even kneel down and kowtow. It wasn't like he hadn't done such things in the past. However, he couldn't do it now. There were so many people watching him, and he was a person of status. His knees couldn't soften, and he couldn't lower his head. Chen Guang and Bai Hua didn't say anything else. They were waiting for Lu Chao to make a final decision. Lu Chao had been unstoppable for dozens of years. From starting from scratch to building up such a foundation, even when he was surrounded by assassins, it didn't seem as difficult as this. When he was being chased, he at least knew that once he escaped, he would have a bright future. However, now he was being pressured by someone who was too powerful for him to resist. He couldn't escape, and he couldn't free himself. If there was a medicine for regret in this world, Lu Chao would buy a pound of it. If he hadn't been so arrogant when Chen Guang talked to him, and if he hadn't been so arrogant and looked at himself seriously to understand the trouble Zhuo Wei had caused him, then he would have agreed to his relatively reasonable request. Then he wouldn't have ended up in this situation. Although Zhuo Wei and his 8 weekly magazines were important to Lushi culture, Lushi culture only accounted for less than a third of his business. Zhuo Wei apologized. Although the 8 weekly magazines' reputation had declined, they were still 8 weekly magazines, and Lushi culture was still Lushi culture. At most, they had a smaller influence in the industry, but the overall economic loss was not unbearable. What should I do now? If Zhuo Wei knew that the backer he was so proud of, the big boss of Dachuan province, Lu Chao, was being hung on the gallows because of his trivial matter, who knew how this self-proclaimed #1 paparazzi in Huaxia would feel? Chen Guang either doesn't fight with Zhuo Wei seriously, or he takes drastic measures to deal with him. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. I'll deal with your backer first. I'm sorry, Mr. Lu. I have something to do here. Tai Xinju finally made up his mind. He couldn't let Lu Chao drag it on any longer, or things would only become more and more troublesome. He decided to reveal Xian Qin's identity in private. He had to let Lu Chao understand that Chen Guang was definitely someone he couldn't afford to offend. Lu Chao didn't expect that Tai Xinju, who was a man of few words, would suddenly appear at such a special time. Brother Tai, what are you? Lu Chao calmed down a little and asked. Tai Xinju didn't explain further. He only said, it's urgent. The two of them had known each other for decades, and they had a tacit understanding. Lu Chao thought that Brother Tai might have noticed his current predicament, and came over to pull him away to resolve the situation. I'm sorry, everyone. I'll go for a while and I'll be back soon. No matter what, I'll give everyone a satisfactory answer, okay? Lu Chao followed Tai Xinju to a corner and said in a low voice, Brother Tai, just tell me what's going on. Brother Lu, no matter what Chen Guang wants from you, you must agree to it. Don't hesitate, or you'll be in big trouble, Tai Xinju said in a low voice. Lu Chao was even more puzzled. It was fine if someone else said this to him, but he really couldn't understand why Tai Xinju, who was so skilled and focused on cultivating martial arts, would suddenly care about such mundane matters. Seeing that he still didn't understand, Tai Xinju said anxiously, that little girl, the one following behind Chen Guang, is the eldest senior sister of the Thousand Despair sect. If nothing goes wrong, she'll also be the sect leader of the Thousand Despair sect in the future. The Thousand Despair sect? How does it compare to your sect, Brother Tai? Although Lu Chao didn't know who this sect was, he could tell from Tai Xinju's serious expression that this was not a simple matter. Tai Xinju sighed. The difference between the stars in the sky and the mud on the ground. Lu Chao was shocked. How is this possible? Brother Tai, you're so powerful. Tai Xinju sighed. Brother Lu, I'll tell you the truth. In the eyes of ordinary people, I might be considered an expert, but I'm nothing among the inner force martial artists. Any inner disciple of the Thousand Despair sect is much more powerful than me. For example, the eldest senior sister of the sect leader, Xian Qin, has the ability to single-handedly annihilate my sect, the Iron Arm sect. This, Lu Chao's eyes widened. However, even though the Thousand Despair sect is so powerful, their eldest senior sister of the sect leader stays by Chen Guang's side as a follower. Although I don't know the reason, there's no doubt that taking a step back will lead to the end of the world. Tai Xinju said solemnly. Even Tai Xinju, who had followed him for decades and was as close as a brother, said the same thing. This was the last straw that broke the camel's back for Lu Chao. He gritted his teeth. Damn you, Zhuo Wei. How big of a hornet's nest did you poke? How much trouble have you caused for me? I've told you before that you have to earn money. With me supporting you, you might be considered a force in the entertainment industry, but you have to know who you can touch and who you can't. At this moment, he began to blame Zhuo Wei in his heart. However, how could Zhuo Wei bear the blame? Who would have thought that an internet celebrity like Chen Guang would be able to build up such a terrifying social network in just a few months? A few months ago, he was still relying on online taxi booking to make ends meet. Lu Chao finally nodded. All right, Brother Tai, I understand what you mean. It's good that you understand. Seeing that Lu Chao had finally thought it through, Tai Xinju let out a long sigh. The most taboo thing for people in the pugilistic world was to hit a rock with an egg. The principle of the strong being respected was achieved with one's fists. There was no such thing as a glib tongue, and there was no such thing as the weak defeating the strong. For example, with Tai Xinju's muscle strength cultivation, he would be courting death if he tried to provoke Xian Qin, who had bone strength cultivation. Even 10 of him would not be enough to defeat Xian Qin with a casual throw of a dart. Lu Chao returned to Chen Guang and the others. He took a deep breath and did not care if the others were looking at him. This big boss of his generation, who could make De Chuan tremble with a stomp of his foot, directly lowered his head and bowed at a 90-degree angle. Mr. Chen, I, Lu Chao, formally apologize to you. It was the same apology, but times had changed. Lu Chao's tone and attitude were completely different from before. Chen Guang finally grinned. He looked at Lu Chao and laughed in his heart. If you knew it would be like this, why did you do it in the first place? Really, don't act like a pretentious prick in front of me. Is there a need to humble yourself like this? You're more or less Wang Qing's elder. Now you're making me feel so embarrassed. Uncle Lu, you're being too serious. It's all right. I'm your junior, so don't be so polite to me. I can't afford it. Chen Guang responded with a smile and raised his hand to help Lu Chao up. Lu Chao looked up at Chen Guang and said, Since Mr. Chen calls me Uncle Lu, I'll continue to call you Little Chen. How about this, Little Chen, give me 1 yuan? 1 yuan? Chen Guang was puzzled. Lu Chao nodded. That's right, 1 yuan. After saying that, he spread his hands in front of Chen Guang. Although Chen Guang did not know what he was up to, he did have a coin in his pocket. He took it out and placed it in Lu Chao's hand. Lu Chao put the coin in his pocket. The 8 weekly magazines are yours, Little Chen. You can do whatever you want with this company. What? Chen Guang's eyes widened. He thought he had heard wrong. Lu Chao smiled. I just sold the 8 weekly magazines to you. 1 yuan. Lu Chao nodded. Yes, 1 yuan. As he said that, he covered his pocket as if he was afraid that Chen Guang would go back on his word. Chapter 631. This guy was really decisive. Other than Zhuo Wei, 8 Weekly was still considered an influential news media in the country. Their reputation aside, they had over 100 employees and a considerable circulation. Apart from that, the company also had a lot of secrets about the entertainment industry. Adding all of these resources together, it wouldn't be wrong to say that 8 Weeks was worth over 100 million. However, Lu Chao actually sold it to Chen Guang for a single yuan. Beside him, Bai Hua secretly gave Lu Chao a thumbs up. Selling a single quintuple for 8 weeks, which was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, was truly a show of sincerity. But I'm not interested in being the head of the paparazzi. Chen Guang knew that Lu Chao was showing his sincerity. It's fine. Little Chun, you can dissolve the company now. It's already yours. As for Zhuo Wei, you don't have to worry about him. Lu Chao continued. How about I arrange for him to make a public apology now? Do as you wish. I don't want to see him again. The sooner the better. But you have to help me get rid of the bad influence. I won't let him get away with it if he leaves any more dirt. Chen Guang waved his hand casually. Compared to him, Zhuo Wei was just a clown. Now that the clown was about to leave the stage, there was no need for him to watch how the clown was going to leave. Is there a need for that? Lu Chao made a gesture of cutting his throat. Bai Hua coughed lightly. Mr. Lu, this is a society ruled by law. Chen Guang shook his head. No matter what, Zhuo Wei was still Zhuo Jingxi's uncle. Alright, let's end this here. Oh right, Mr. Lu, there were some things I couldn't say at the meeting. Now we can talk about it in detail. Seeing that the dust had almost settled, White Birch jumped out at the right time. He couldn't suppress a person like Lu Chao too much, so he had to hit him with a stick and give him some benefits. This was what he had to do, and he knew this very well. Lu Chao had decisively cut his losses. It was reasonable to give him some benefits. Lu Chao was overjoyed. He was secretly glad that he had made the right decision at the crucial moment. Alright, let's go talk. Call Mr. Wang and Mr. Yin. I'll be there soon. Alright. As Lu Chao spoke, he walked to the side and called Wang Guoxiong and Fourth Master Yin to the small conference room of the club. Chen Guang had a feeling that Bai Hua was purposely sending Lu Chao away. This guy had bad intentions. Sure enough, after everyone had left, Bai Hua suddenly moved closer to Chen Guang. Chen Guang quietly took a step back, keeping his distance from White Birch. In the end, this guy did not give up and continued to press forward. Chen Guang's eyes widened as he stared at Bai Hua. It was as if he was looking at a scourge or a ferocious beast. If you come any closer, I'll beat you up. Bai Hua, on the other hand, seemed to be completely unaware of Chen Guang's murderous glare. Instead, he became somewhat bashful. In Chen Guang's eyes, his demeanor was especially frightening. Big brother, don't be like this. Let's talk things out properly. Don't blush, don't be shy. I think you make me more flustered than Zhuo Wei. Chen Guang, I heard from Jingwei. Bai Hua began to organize his words. Chen Guang was even more afraid. Big brother, you don't need to organize your words when you talk to me. Could it be that Lin Jingwei, that bastard, has already sold the matter of me being Chinyu to you? We really can't be brothers anymore. From now on, little Lin, you and I are absolutely irreconcilable. What did Lin Jingwei say? Chen Guang forced himself to calm down and asked with a slightly trembling voice. Jingwei said that you know Chinyu. Bai Hua finally said. Chen Guang secretly patted his chest. Luckily, Bai Hua only said that he knew Chinyu and didn't directly accuse him. It wasn't hard to imagine how badly Lin Jingwei had been interrogated by Bai Hua. That was why he had chosen to pin this matter on Chu Li. It must have been a terrifying formless sword shadow. Yes, I know him. Brother Bai Hua, what are you doing? Chen Guang began to put on an act. I heard that she is also in the 5 capital. Can you help me make an appointment with her? I want to see her so much that I'm going crazy. Bai Hua was overjoyed. His words even seemed to have the intention of pleasing Chen Guang. It was completely different from the general's demeanor he had in front of Lu Chao and the others. It was as if he had become a different person. Chen Guang really wanted to tell him that Chinyu was going crazy even if she didn't want to see him. I can't. Why? Bai Hua was unwilling. It wasn't easy for me to come here. Chen Guang shrugged his shoulders. Brother Bai Hua, it's not that I want to criticize you, but it wasn't easy for you to come here. It has nothing to do with Sister Chinyu. Bai Hua was puzzled. How can it have nothing to do with me? First of all, you didn't inform her. Secondly, she has no obligation to see you just because you want to see her. Chen Guang lied through his teeth. He continued to solidify Chen Yu's arrogant image in Bai Hua's mind, making him completely give up. Bai Hua, on the other hand, seemed to have woken up from his reverie. Realization dawned on him. I understand. I understand. Not only was Bai Hua not disappointed, but he was also ecstatic. Chen Guang felt that he might have said something wrong. What do you understand? Bai Hua patted Chen Guang's shoulder. I finally understand why Chen Yu was never willing to accept me. Why? I've always been too selfish. I only cared about my own feelings. I thought that my passion could move anyone, but you're right. Love is a matter between two people. Not only will my passion not make her happy, it will only add to Chen Yu's troubles. He finally realized the arrogance hidden in his bones. Chen Guang's heart gradually fell. From his tone, it seemed that he was finally going to give up. It's good that you understand, but I won't give up. Bai Hua clenched his fists. His eyes flashed with determination. Chen Guang, are you King kidding me? Are you joking? From today onwards, I will be like a real ordinary person. I will let go of my pride and conceit, and use ordinary methods to pursue her. It doesn't matter if she doesn't want to see me. Please help me tell her that I, Bai Hua, am serious. I've never been so serious in my life. Chen Guang was speechless. No need to tell her. Thank you. She was just listening, and he already felt like vomiting. Brother Bai Hua, forget it. She has already become a nun, and entered the Buddhist gate. It doesn't matter. I know that my overly enthusiastic pursuit must have caused her distress and trouble. I am very sorry for it. If she is really determined to stay with the Buddha, then I am willing to become a bluestone for His Highness Mahavira, and stay with her forever, never leaving or abandoning her. What a lunatic. My stomach is so uncomfortable that it's going to burst. Chen Guang turned around and left. This guy had gone completely crazy. It was better to run away before Chen Guang drove him crazy. As for discussing how to deal with Zhuo Wei with Lu Chao, it was better to wait until their second small-scale meeting was over. Later that day, they would meet Lu Chao alone to discuss it. In any case, the matter had already been settled. That's right. Chen Guang planned to run away first. But before he could run, he suddenly realized that someone was missing. Xanqin was gone. After calling her to ask, he found out that her master had suddenly called her to deal with something. She had left first. Chen Guang wasn't worried about Xanqin's safety. In the 5 capital, unless she met another inner force martial artist, or at least skin force, ordinary people wouldn't be able to hurt her. Brother Guang, how's the matter going? Wang Qing asked the moment Chen Guang sat down. Zhong Bai and Lu Fei also looked at him nervously. After all, the atmosphere between Lu Chao and Chen Guang seemed to be at loggerheads at the start. With a smile, Chen Guang replied, I just gave Mr. Lu $1. 1 yuan? Lu Fei was puzzled. Zhong Bai didn't quite understand either. What's the meaning behind it? 8 Trigrams Society belongs to me. Zhuo Wei is just the professional manager of 8 Trigrams Society. Actually, the entire 8 Trigrams Society belongs to Mr. Lu. Chen Guang smiled. The 3 of them sucked in a breath of cold air. They were all shocked by Lu Chao's decisiveness. If Zhuo Wei knows that things have turned out this way, he'll probably break down, right? Lu Fei, who was the first to know about this, thought. Zhong Bai and Wang Qing weren't good people either. They both smiled wickedly. That's it for now. I have to return to the company to make some arrangements. Chen Guang made up some nonsense. He was actually planning to run away before Bai Hua came out. I'll give you a ride. Lu Fei stood up. This time, Chen Guang didn't drive over. He needed someone to give him a ride. You too, don't do it in broad daylight. Wang Qing chuckled. Then, he was beaten by Lu Fei with a snap of her fingers. Lu Fei's almond-shaped eyes widened. It's already dark. In broad daylight, what the hell? When the 2 of them walked out of the club, it was already past 8 o'clock at night. It looked very dark. Sitting in the driver's seat of Lu Fei's Porsche 918, Lu Fei suddenly said thoughtlessly, I'm afraid we haven't sat in a car like this for a long time, right? Chen Guang felt a little itchy. He still remembered when he participated in the car gambling competition in Xiangjiang. Every time before the competition, he would sit in the car and touch her, igniting his adrenaline in advance with her help. He was able to be successful in the Xiangjiang car gambling competition and quickly enter an invincible state. Lu Fei indeed played a part in it. In those days, he could be said to have taken advantage of her. If it weren't for the fact that he was in a hurry to return to Wujing after winning the competition, he would have already executed Lu Fei on the spot. At that time, he let Lu Fei go, which was regarded as a lifelong regret by Chen Guang. But it seemed that there was no way to make up for it. He just didn't know why she brought it up again when their situation was somewhat similar to the past. Chen Guang replied, then started the car and ran forward. Yes. Now we are slowly getting busy. I'm fine. When school starts, I guess I still have to go back to school. But I'm afraid you can't be the same as before, right? Lu Fei said strangely. Don't you have a Tianguang agency? Still studying. Chen Guang nodded. Of course I'm studying. Not to mention anything else. I worked hard from elementary school to high school for 12 years just to get into college. Regardless of whether I have a company or not, I still have to graduate from college. Not to mention others, at least I can't waste my 12 years of youth, can't I? Lu Fei nodded. That's true. I didn't expect you to be so capable. You haven't forgotten your original intentions. I don't deserve it. I often think of the bitter days when I was in junior high and high school, and I cry because of it. I can't bear to let it go to waste. It's said that youth has no regrets. My youth was all wasted on studying. I still have to use my graduation certificate to pay for my youth. I'm still nostalgic. I can't compare to Bill Gates, who could even drop out of Harvard. The car gradually sped up. Chen Guang started to go straight to Rennan Road. He wanted to return to Lida Building. Although the people in the company had probably gotten off work at this time, Chen Guang's real purpose was to avoid trouble. It didn't matter whether there was anyone in the company or not. Unexpectedly, not long after they drove out, Lu Fei suddenly stretched. Her perky chest rose high. I haven't run on the mountain road in a long time. Take me to Fengquan Mountain? Huh? Chen Guang wondered. Lu Fei rolled her eyes at him and continued to stretch. You don't know. Ever since I stopped racing, I've been ordered around by my family. I never thought that my father would be so cold-blooded and heartless. Lu Fei said with a sigh. Her heart was bitter. In the past, she could race whenever she wanted. Although the branch was under her name, most of the time she was a hands-off boss. But now she couldn't. Once she entered that state, her family would think that she had matured and grown up. That heavy burden would come one after another and press down on her shoulders. Lu Chemical was such a big group, and the chairman only had one daughter. In the future, the company would be inherited by her. She would have to face these things sooner or later. It was just that because of Chen Guang's appearance, Lu Fei had fulfilled her biggest dream early. She had witnessed the extreme of racing with her own eyes, which pushed back the time for her to change her mind by 2 years. But people were not made of iron. They would all get tired. Lu Fei had been pressured by her family too much during this time. Although she was indeed sensible, she was no longer the crazy rich girl who always liked to wear leather clothes and loved racing. Now, she was a serious boss Lu in front of outsiders. She could take on airs, talk about things, and not lose the face of the Lu family in Dechuan. However, the little devil hidden in her bones would not turn into an angel so easily. Rebellion flowed in her blood. That was why she was so crazy and unrestrained when she accompanied Chen Guang to Xiangjiang. Because of her worship, she was willing to take the initiative to dedicate herself, and even take the initiative to seduce him. She didn't think there was anything wrong with it. This was the life she liked. She liked the feeling of excitement and madness. Of course, so far, only Chen Guang could make her completely crazy. It was completely impossible for people like Wang Qing and Zhong Bai. Even the king of cars could only slightly attract her attention. But Chen Guang was a god, not a human. Chen Guang's ability could not be measured by common sense. Chen Guang's position in her heart was incomparable. She was ignited by Chen Guang's godlike driving skills. She was even more attracted by his imposing manner in Xiangjiang. Her legs trembled and her lower body was wet. Now she was the young boss Lu of the Lu family in Dechuan. But once she sat with Chen Guang, her mood was completely out of control. The string in Lu Fei's heart, that had been constantly stretched by the family's high-pressure policy, was completely broken the moment she sat in the Porsche 918 with Chen Guang. Chen Guang turned his head slightly and looked at Lu Fei, who was stretching. At this time, her movements completely revealed her perfect figure. Chen Guang glanced at her, and was almost sucked away by her towering figure. He recalled what she had just said. Going to Fengquan Mountain, was she going to race again? Strange, his entire body began to inexplicably boil with blood. The injury he had suffered from Bai Hua just now had instantly healed. Good. Let's go to Fengquan Mountain. Chen Guang nodded heavily and stepped on the accelerator. The Porsche 918, whose acceleration performance was off the charts, rushed out like lightning. It drew a beautiful arc on the spacious road in the suburbs and headed straight for Fengquan Mountain. Chapter 632. When the two of them drove to the parking lot at the foot of Fengquan Mountain, it was unexpectedly lively. There were even more people than when Zhong Bai and Wang Qing were still racing. Cars came and went in the parking lot illuminated by the night lights. There were at least dozens of luxury cars and supercars. All kinds of passionate and explosive music rose and fell in the parking lot. It was as if everyone wanted to turn their sound system to the maximum. The maturity and departure of Lu Fei, Wang Qing, and Zhong Bai did not cause the popularity of Fengquan Mountain Racetrack to decline. It was even more lively than before. Most of the people in the crowd were young men and women in strange clothes. From time to time, there were foreigners who looked very tough. In addition, it was a place full of racing and passion. Every summer night, there were many sexy girls in revealing clothes. Some girls were brought by others, and some girls came in groups to watch the fun. Perhaps they were trying to use their beauty to enter the circle. Chen Guang parked the car near the entrance of the parking lot and said in surprise, "I didn't expect there to be so many people. I thought you guys were the only ones who liked to race in Wujing City." Lu Fei spat at him. "What do you mean by just the few of us like to race? There are plenty of people who like to race. It's just that we're good at racing. We pooled our money together to build this mountain road. In the past, we loved to come here. But without our permission, we wouldn't let anyone who wasn't in our circle come here." "So overbearing?" Chen Guang raised his eyebrows. Lu Fei was embarrassed. "It's a little overbearing, but we built the road. Isn't it a little overbearing? Now that you guys aren't coming, there are more and more people." Chen Guang rolled down the window and leaned against the door, feasting his eyes on the girls outside. Anyway, it didn't cost him a penny to look. Where else could he find so many beautiful girls with big breasts, round buttocks, and beautiful faces? Lu Fei curled her lips disdainfully. "What's the use of having more people? We're the ones who really like cars. We love cars. What we pursue is speed. Look at these people. How many of them really like the passion brought about by the feeling of speed? As for them, they only used their family's money to buy a good car and lived off their parents. They came here to show off and pick up girls. Vulgar, unbearably vulgar. Let's not talk about running away with you. Among these people, there aren't many who can eat Zhong Bai's dust." Chen Guang was speechless at how thick-skinned Lu Fei was. How could a prodigal woman like you, who bought a $15 million sports car, have the cheek to say that others live off their elders? Of course, perhaps Lu Fei was right. Although the group of people led by her also liked to race, their personal image was still relatively decent. They came here to seriously practice driving and did not play any tricks. Other than racing, Lu Fei, Zhong Bai, and the rest did not neglect their families' arrangements. Even among the rich second-generation prodigals, they were still considered the best. But now, the young people in the parking lot were all dressed up like hipsters. It was as if they couldn't go out and greet people if they didn't dye their hair. He was a good man, but he had to put on makeup, eyeshadow and eyeliner, and wear Korean-branded clothes. Just looking at him made one feel disgusted. Just based on the way these people were dressed, how could they be expected to do anything serious? They would probably embarrass their families if they went out to do business. Of course, it's not just rookies here. Since you became famous, many foreigners have treated this place as a holy land. From time to time, many top foreign racers come here to compete. Do you know how the Phoenix Spring Mountain Racetrack is rumored? How? Chen Guang was curious. Although the old man was no longer in the industry, there were still legends about the old man. It felt pretty good. In the international circle, it is said that the invincible racing god was trained on the Phoenix Spring Mountain Racetrack. Others treat this place as a holy land. Just a while ago, Tommy Diesel and the son of Sonic Farant came here for a run. Chen Guang laughed as he continued. Then you guys should build a statue of me and erect a signboard to collect entrance fees. Otherwise, how much money can you earn? You only care about money, vulgar. So what if I'm vulgar? We still have to change the name of this racetrack. What name? The Road of the Racing God. You're getting more and more thick-skinned. I think it's a little too. But I like it when you're so shameless. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm just so handsome. People come on a pilgrimage wherever I go. It's impossible not to look handsome. The two joked in the car, but unknowingly, they slowly became the focus of the parking lot. Although there were a lot of supercars in the parking lot at this time, the Porsche 918 Spyder was the only top supercar worth more than 10 million. Usually Lu Fei, Zhong Bai, and Wang Qing were quite low-key with Chen Guang. They were not as prominent as Bai Hua, but it was undeniable that this group of people, including Tang Xiaokai, represented the pinnacle of the rich second generation in Sichuan province. They were at the top of the pyramid. Each of them had at least a few cars, and Wang Qing had also invested tens of millions in his GTR. The Porsche 918 Spyder was just one of Lu Fei's collections. There might be other rich second-generation people in the province who did not like to race, but they belonged to a different circle. There were only 30 to 40 people who were so rich. As for the others, unless they had played together since they were young, or if you were a particularly interesting person, everyone would find you pleasing to the eye. Otherwise, sorry, everyone had their own circle, and we had ours. Everyone played their own games. Unless there was something important that they could discuss together, or if they had some common interests, they might take a second look at you. For example, Lu Fei. In addition to racing, she also had a group of friends. When they were free, they would get together to play League of Legends. Although Lu Fei deserved to be the big sister of this group of friends, she would not put on any airs. Not all of these friends came from super rich families, and it was fate that they met and knew each other. But at this time, the group of people mingling in Phoenix Spring Mountain was far behind Lu Fei and her group. The structure of the pyramid had always been so cruel, and the difference of one level was like heaven and earth. Other second or third generation rich second, or third generation rich second or third generation, rich people might be able to steal their hearts and buy a bull worth a few million, but there was not a single person like Lu Fei or Wang Qing, whose collection was worth tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions. When more and more knowledgeable people recognized the Porsche 918, the crowd began to talk about the sudden appearance of the top luxury car. Who the hell is this? Can a Spyder worth 15 million be driven out for fun? I don't know. I heard that there was a big sister in Boss Zhong's group who bought a Spyder, but they don't come anymore, do they? If it were me, after buying such an expensive car, I can't wait to put it at home. I'm afraid that the wheels will get dirty. A young man said with jealousy, and patted the roof of his Audi R8 with some resentment. It was infuriating to compare with others. Maybe some nouveau riche just bought a new car to show off? That's right. Look at that group of little bitches. Since this broken car came, their eyes have been drifting. Their pants are all wet, right? Don't talk about others. Aren't we also looking at it? F***ck. I'm not happy. I'm not happy either, but what's the use? There's a good girl in that group over there. Let's go up and talk to her. The two of them were about to attack, but the group of little girls driving the BMW Z4 and Porsche Boxster had already taken the initiative to attack the 918. F***ck. What a beast. Why are you so realistic? Animals. I'll sell a Pagani even if I have to sell everything I have. You think too much. Young man, wake up. Your father won't agree. In the car, Lu Fei looked at the few little girls who were approaching. Not far away there were people coming over. She chuckled and said, "Someone saw that your car is good and wants to hook up with you." Chen Guang rolled his eyes. People nowadays are really realistic, but this is not my car. That doesn't matter. Don't miss the opportunity. The little girl in the middle is quite beautiful. Looking at the little girl in the middle whose eyeshadow almost covered half of her face, Chen Guang shook his head. Forget it. I don't appreciate this taste. Lu Fei said again. You men don't know how to put on makeup. She's just wearing too much makeup. Actually, after removing her makeup, she's really a very cute little girl. As long as she doesn't mind, I don't mind either. It's a threesome. F*CKU. I'm serious. Chen Guang's eyes widened. Really? You really can't stand up to the test. You're such a hypocrite. Hey. Someone else is coming. Look over there. There are a few more little girls coming over. Lu Fei said in surprise. She seemed to be having more fun than driving her car here. The 15 million yuan Porsche 918 Spyder was too eye-catching. It was destined to become the focus of the crowd. Even if it was half the price, it would not be so eye-catching. But there was a limit to one's modesty. A rich second-generation heir, who could afford a 15 million yuan toy, must have a net worth of at least tens of billions. Who wouldn't be tempted? Throughout his life, Chen Guang had never experienced being hit on by girls while sitting in a car, which left him overwhelmed. However, it was a pity that Lu Fei, whose figure and appearance were both top-notch, was beside him. In the end, the threesome that he was looking forward to was just a dream. Even if Lu Fei was willing, people would see that he had brought his own food and compare themselves to Lu Fei. No one else would be willing to suffer such grievances. Looking at the 7 or 8 groups of girls passing by the Porsche in a short 5 minutes, the men in the parking lot could not sit still. This was too F*King embarrassing. The girls we want to hit on are all the leftovers from your selection? This nouveau riche is too arrogant, right? Yo, Brotherly has gone over. He can't take it anymore. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to take it either. I just don't know what Brotherly is going to do. What else can he do? What do you want to bet on? Just because his car is good, he wants to show off. Isn't he looking for trouble? This is a racetrack. That's right, this guy is going to be unlucky. Compared to the others in the parking lot, Liemo felt that he was different. Although he also hit on girls here from time to time, he felt that he was a car lover and had standards. Today, when Zhong Bai and the others retired, Liemo felt that as the newly rising #1 racer of Phoenix Spring Mountain, he had the responsibility and obligation to protect the dignity of the Phoenix Spring Mountain racing clan. At the very least, he could not let the nouveau riche ride on everyone's head just because his car was good. Of course, he really could not stand this guy's pretentious manner. He had seduced all the girls but ignored them all. Now that the car had stopped for almost 10 minutes, he still had not come down to pay his respects. It was really too pretentious. Yo, someone is coming to pick a fight. Lu Fei also noticed Liemo, who was walking over with a group of people. This little boy's appearance was slightly normal. He was tall and thin with a clean and refreshing crew cut. He wore black casual pants and a pure black vest. Although he was a little thin and not very handsome, at least he looked more normal than the other men in the parking lot. Do you know him? Chen Guang asked. Lu Fei shook her head. I know his name, but I don't know him. He's a young man who has appeared recently. His level is about the same as Zhong Bai's in the past. I also heard about him from others, but I haven't talked to him. Then he's going to be unlucky, Chen Guang said with a fake smile. Lu Fei raised her eyebrows. Let's see what he wants to do. We don't have to deal with him. Bro, this car is not bad. Liemo did not know that Chen Guang and Lu Fei were discussing how to deal with him. He came up and struck a pose that he thought was handsome. He put one hand on the roof of the 918, and the other on his waist. He leaned over and said to Chen Guang, who was sitting in the car. His posture was very handsome and domineering, as if he was looking down on him. Chen Guang tilted his head slightly. It's not bad. What's the matter? Liemo curled his lips. But this place is not a place you can come to just because you have a good car. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't pretend here. It's a little annoying. Chen Guang tilted his head, his tone arrogant and insolent. No matter what this Liemo had up his sleeve, or what he wanted to do, he thought he could handle it. Perhaps Chen Guang himself did not realize that once he sat in a supercar, with his hands on the steering wheel, feeling the top products of modern industry, and immersing himself in this mechanical monster that was full of violent aesthetics, his own personality would unconsciously change. He would become the king of the world, the invincible god of racing. An unknown anger gradually rose in Liemo's heart. Ever since he became the #1 racer in the 5 capitals, with his absolute advantage at the Phoenix Spring Mountain Racetrack. It had been a long time since anyone dared to speak to him like this at Phoenix Spring Mountain Racetrack. Liam lowered his head and stared directly at the bald man sitting inside the car. The dim light of the night shone on the man's face. It was hard to see his face clearly, but Liam could sense the man's disdain for him. At this moment, Lu Fei got out from the other side of the car. She leaned on the hood and said impatiently, "Hey brat, don't play games with him. If you have something to say, say it. If not, let's go run a lap and leave. Don't waste time here." Liam got up and looked at Lu Fei's curvaceous figure wrapped in a tight jacket and leather pants. Lu Fei's heroic spirit was completely different from the flirtatious B*TCH outside, and his eyes immediately lit up. He grinned. He already had an idea. Gambling on a car was too much, but it didn't matter. They could bet on a woman. Liam leaned over. "Hey brother Baldy, do you dare to make a bet?" Chen Guang said. "Oh, interesting. What are we betting on?" Chapter 633. Liam looked up at Lu Fei next to him. "Make a trip. If I win, your girl will play with me for a night. If you win, you can play with my girl for a night too." As he spoke, he pulled over a little girl in a white vest. Her skin was fair, her figure was good, and her long hair draped over her shoulders. She looked very delicate. "I've just picked up a girl. What do you think? Pretty, right? I haven't even touched her myself. Do you dare?" Liam raised his eyebrows. He really thought that Lu Fei was sticking to Chen Guang's girl. The little girl seemed reluctant. "Brother Liam, why are you like this? I won't agree." Liam turned around and winked at her. The little girl understood and thought that he was right. Brotherly couldn't lose. On the other hand, Chen Guang didn't want to agree. Although he would definitely win, it seemed to be disrespectful to Lu Fei. "No. Okay. It's decided." Before Chen Guang could finish his words, Lu Fei, who had just returned to the front passenger seat, pounced on him. She put her head near the driver's window and excitedly said, "Go! Run now!" Chen Guang was stunned. "Sis, did you hear what he wanted to bet on?" "Bet on you. Gambling on girls. You're going to do something big." Liam didn't know that he had stepped into the abyss. He was overjoyed. "Okay." Hearing that there was a bet on women, the whole parking lot erupted. On one side was the #1 racer in the 5 capitals, Liam. On the other side was a mysterious tycoon driving a Porsche 918. Both of them were betting on their own women. "Brotherly, this girl hasn't been with him for long. He hasn't touched her yet, right? I heard that she's from a rich family in Mianyang City. Isn't this bet a little too big? What do you know? It's not like Brotherly will lose. How could his girl be taken advantage of? It's obvious that Brotherly has his eyes on someone else's girl. That's right. This guy is going to be out of luck. Serves him right. He drove such a good car out to show off. But he doesn't have any friends to back him up. If he doesn't have the ability, he should just admit defeat." Regardless of what others were saying, Chen Guang moved the car to the starting line and said snappily, "Sister Lu Fei, your joke is too much. What are you thinking?" Lu Fei chuckled. "Kids these days don't know any better. Let's teach him a lesson. Then should I lose on purpose? Then this Liam won't live past tonight." "Really?" Lu Fei said half jokingly and half seriously. "You don't have any sincerity when you gamble. You want to take someone's life at the drop of a hat?" Lu Fei smacked his head. "You're the one who's insincere. It's not like you're going to lose anyway. Your little girl is quite pretty. Aren't you tempted?" Chen Guang shook his head. "I'm not tempted. It's meaningless. I'll serve you with her? That's doable. You wish. That's boring." Lu Fei said curiously. "This isn't like you at all. Let me tell you, based on my judgment, that little girl is still a virgin. She's so fresh. If I were a man, I'd want her too. She's so pretty. I can't be bothered to talk to you." Chen Guang curled his lips and tilted his head. He was getting a headache from Lu Fei's desire to see the world in chaos. Gambling was fine, but it was women. Thinking of that little girl, he actually felt that it was not worth it for her. Even if he won, he didn't have the heart to do it. He didn't even know her. So how could he really do anything? He felt uncomfortable. Besides, he was already a celebrity now. If he really fooled around with others and got himself on the headlines, who could he go to reason with? Wouldn't it be a huge loss if he got himself involved in the scandal of being a fan maniac, just for a moment of pleasure? It wasn't like he didn't have anyone by his side. It wasn't worth it. Thinking of this, he lost his fighting spirit and felt weak all over. Seeing that he was bored, Lu Fei saw through his thoughts. She quietly put her hand on his thigh and then pushed it forward. All right. I know you have your principles. If you win, I'll take advantage of you. It was obvious that Chen Guang would not lose. Both of them knew that Lu Fei's words were basically a clear indication to Chen Guang. It was basically the same as saying, I'm yours tonight. You can do whatever you want. Chen Guang suddenly perked up. All right, little pervert, I thought you were serious. Turns out you're just trying to get your hands on me. Lu Fei pinched him hard. Gentler. Balls hurt. Damn, can you get any harder? Are you made of iron? To tell you the truth, the old man is very talented. The old man's English name is Richard Tyson, and his Japanese name is Nikawa Okazaki. Can you get any more wretched? I think it's pretty hard. Sitting in the car, Liemo was very excited at this time, with a strange flush on his face. When he thought of that sexy and hot big sister just now, he couldn't help himself. The little girl in the passenger seat wasn't as shy as she looked before. Perhaps she was a little unwilling, but she knew that she couldn't control Liemo. Her family had asked her to be with him, but in fact, she knew that he was too playful. This was life. Forget it. I'll wait for him to have enough fun for a few years. He should be able to settle down, right? Actually, I'm quite envious of how unbridled and unrestrained others are. The little girl thought to herself. The Porsche 918 and Ferrari 599 were lined up side by side at the starting line. In front of them, the final preparations were being made. There was a big bet on the main event, and it was considered an official race. On the other side, a Volkswagen CC quietly drove into the parking lot. Two sneaky people rushed out of the car. Hurry! You better hurry up. The boss said that Chen Guang came here in Miss Lu's Porsche. The relationship between these two is definitely not simple. If we don't get anything today, the boss will beat us to death when we get back. Don't rush us. Remote control, hold it. The two of them carried drones and bags of equipment into the crowd. They asked everyone they saw if they had seen the Porsche 918. 918. Are you too blind? Don't you see it at the starting line? The race is about to start. Race? One of the people from 8 Weeks was surprised. What are they competing for? Betting on girls. The girl who loses will be played with for a night. The onlookers expressed their disdain for these two people. The two of them were stunned. They looked at each other silently and began to doubt their lives. They knew who Chen Guang was. How fearless was the person sitting in that unlucky Ferrari, competing with the god of racing, Chen Guang, and betting on girls? Was this the legendary boldness of a person and the wealth of the land? Our friends and we are about to cry, okay? That's not right. Isn't this great news for us? Even the girls are betting on it. How could we not get something today? The heavens are on our side. They quickly contacted their colleagues at the finishing line and asked them to quickly adjust the equipment. They must keep up with Chen Guang's movements later. Whether or not they could get something good depended on this. The other onlookers sighed. This kid is really not afraid of death. He actually dared to bet on girls. The two 8 Weeks employees nodded in agreement. That's right. I've never seen someone so bold. Although everyone's meaning was different, the person they were referring to was completely different. On the other side, Zhuowei also fell into ecstasy when he heard the big news. Most of the news about Chen Guang that he had concocted before were like rootless duckweed deliberately smearing him. It was easy to clarify and deny. If he really wanted to fight a lawsuit, he would definitely lose. However, as long as he could get something real, Chen Guang would not be able to deny it. Make sure to adjust the network for me. Remember to let the drone attack at the most critical moment. Chen Guang's darts are very good. The camera doesn't need to capture too much, but it must be useful. The image must be explosive. Zhuowei gave the most important instruction. He was starting to feel that he didn't need to ask Boss Lu for help. He could handle this himself. Chen Guang, after tonight, I'm afraid our strategic cooperation fee will increase again. I don't know what you think, but I think it's worth it. Bang! As the starting gun sounded, Chen Guang and Li Emo stepped on the gas at the same time. The two cars almost rushed out side by side. In fact, the Porsche 918's racing performance was better than the Ferrari 599's. The 918 was recognized as one of the world's most professional track, New York Raceway, and the Ferrari 599 had almost no achievements in New York. However, Li Emo didn't think he would lose to his opponent. The complex bends of the Phoenix Spring Raceway were destined to test the driver's ability. Li Emo didn't think he would lose to anyone. I say, be more serious. Lu Fei looked at Chen Guang, who had one hand on the window and his right hand on the steering wheel. Chen Guang yawned. I'm already very serious, okay? I'm serious in your face. Lu Fei was almost speechless. I'm loose on the outside, but tight on the inside. What do you know? Chen Guang yawned again. Crack. Lu Fei unzipped Chen Guang's pants. What are you doing? Chen Guang was shocked. Lu Fei silently put her hand in. I'm helping you stimulate some adrenaline. I'm making you loose on the outside and tight on the inside. I'm making your whole body tense. You're the one who forced me to do this. I want to race today. I want to go fast. I want to find excitement. I'm not happy with your attitude, you know? As she spoke, she used her hand to pinch something hard and really began to do something that was not suitable for children. Chen Guang's whole body trembled. He sat up straight and grabbed the steering wheel with both hands. You're violating the traffic rules. If you're recorded by the surveillance camera, your driver's license points will be reset to 0, okay? Lu Fei smiled indifferently, but her hand movements became more and more violent. I'm sorry, the surveillance on this road was made by my own people. I can delete it at any time. Chen Guang's whole body tensed up more and more, and the force of his foot on the accelerator also increased. The car gradually sped up. The 918, which had been running side by side with the Ferrari 599, was getting faster and faster, so much so that it gradually left Li Mo's car behind. Looking at the curve in front of him getting closer and closer, Li Mo was about to slow down and enter the curve when he suddenly found that the car next to him had sped up and left him a little bit behind. F***CK. Is he crazy? Isn't he afraid of death? Then, under his dumbfounded gaze, the Porsche 918 swung violently along the sharp curve in a semicircle. The closest part of the car to the guardrail was perhaps less than 2 centimeters. A terrifying extreme cornering. When the Ferrari 599 finally made the turn, the 918 in front of it had already opened up the distance between the two workshops by 3 car lengths. It was still speeding up, and the distance between the two workshops was still getting bigger. The onlookers following behind the two cars were shocked by this scene. The onlookers squatting in the parking lot of the starting and ending points and watching the big screen were not much better. Regardless of the performance of the car, the driver of the Porsche 918 was definitely not a newcomer. His level was so high that it made people's hair stand on end. This seemingly simple corner, if it was not an accident, could only mean that his level was so high that it made people feel hopeless. The little girl next to Li Mo began to be afraid. Brotherly, you're not going to lose, are you? Li Mo gritted his teeth. Impossible. I run on this track every day. This is my home ground. Unless that person is the god of racing, there's no way I'll lose. Li Mo slammed the accelerator and rushed into the 7 consecutive hairpin turns. But it was useless. His desperate efforts could not even close the gap between the two of them. In the Porsche 918, Chen Guang's breathing became more and more rapid. Under the constant stimulation of Lu Fei, the adrenaline was constantly hitting his brain. The enclosed space in the car was filled with the smell of decadent male hormones. Lu Fei's face gradually turned red. The scenery outside the window made her feel the long-lost excitement. She finally remembered the feeling of watching Chen Guang surpass strong opponents, one after another under the big screen, at the Hong Kong racetrack. At this time, sitting in Chen Guang's car and feeling his unreserved charge, Her heart was beating faster and faster. Her face was getting redder and redder, and her face and ears were burning hot. She finally knew what she was most addicted to about Chen Guang. It was the extreme excitement brought by this unparalleled speed. Sitting in his car, watching him easily break through the limits of human beings, driving to the god's realm that only belonged to him. This was the exclusive happiness that only she had enjoyed so far. Chen Guang, promise me one thing. I won't marry anyone in the future. I'll be your lover for life. Looking at the scenery outside the window turning into a phantom, Lu Fei said emotionally, her voice slightly trembling. Chen Guang nodded. What? If there's no reason, you're only allowed to take me to race in the future. I'll be your exclusive lover until I'm old and you're old. How about that? Chen Guang nodded without hesitation. Okay. Then let's go faster. Make sure that bastard doesn't see the taillights. Okay. Liemo was in despair. He was in complete despair. He hadn't even finished 2/3 of the race when the walkie-talkie told him that his opponent had reached the finish line. The atmosphere in the Ferrari 599 was so depressing that it was heartbreaking. He never dreamed that he would really lose, and lose so cleanly and thoroughly. Brotherly, what do we do? What do we do now? The little girl in the passenger seat was sobbing. She didn't want this to happen. Liemo drove forward like a zombie. He shook his head slightly. I don't know either. He wanted to go back on his word, but the words he said were like water that was spilled. Today, hundreds of people in the entire Phoenix Spring Mountain Racetrack knew about his bet. If he went back on his word, he wouldn't be able to stay in this circle in the future. He wouldn't even be able to lift his head. Why don't we give them money? Brotherly? Do you think someone who can afford a 15 million Porsche 918 will be short of money? It's all your fault. If it wasn't for you wanting someone else's woman, how could it be like this? How could it be like this? The little girl was finally angry. Liemo turned his head away. Although the little girl's family wasn't as wealthy as his, it wasn't that far off. She could be considered a local wealthy family. He actually lost her. This was really embarrassing. He couldn't explain it to his family. Chapter 634. The people in the parking lots on both sides could still feel the desperate atmosphere in the Ferrari 599, even through the big screen. This is so King embarrassing. How will Brotherly end up this time? God knows. Where did this immortal who drove the 918 come from? He's simply an animal. You really don't know who the person driving the 918 is. The two employees of 8 Weekly couldn't stand the ignorant behavior of the onlookers, and couldn't hold it in for a while. Brothers, you really disappoint us gossipers. Looking at the stupid and cute appearance of this group of people, we as gossipers are really distressed. Do you know? A group of busybodies gathered around. Everyone was really curious. The employees of 8 Weekly, who were surrounded by many rich second generations and cute girls, felt the feeling of being surrounded by stars. It was really a little comfortable. Of course I know. Ooh, that's Chen Guang inside. One of the guys from 8 Weekly finally said. Chen Guang? F***CK. Yes, it's the Chen Guang, you know, the Hong Kong racing god Chen Guang. The versatile brother Chen Guang. F***CK. What a beast. Ah. Oh my god. He's actually an idol. I'm wet. No, I'm going to follow him. I'm going to squeeze him dry. I'm going to touch the immortal chi. You little bitch, other people don't like you. But he has a great beauty by his side. Brotherly's little girlfriend is also much prettier than you. Please practice your skills with me first before you hook up with him. You don't know who he's with. The two new employees of 8 Weekly really enjoyed the feeling of being the only sober person in the world. They decided to reveal some more information. When the boss revealed something, these people could be witnesses. Who is it this time? Lu Fei, the eldest daughter of the Lu family. F***CK. Big sister? Although Lu Fei no longer raced, it was very clear that as a veteran among the young racers in Wujing, Lu Fei also had a legend in Jianghu. After all, this mountain road was built by her people who pooled money together. Everyone couldn't help but sympathize with Liemo. How unlucky must he be to bump into these two people? Not long after, This terrible news also reached the ears of Li Mo and his little girlfriend through the walkie-talkie. The two who were arguing were also stunned. The little girl's gloominess was swept away, and she screamed excitedly, "It's actually Brother Allrounder, my God. Brotherly, I really like him. I love you to death. I really like playing Dota. But no matter how I play, I can only get more than 2,000 celestial stairway points. However, I watch every match of his. He's really amazing. I was so happy that I went crazy those few days." That's right. The little girl was actually a huge fan of Chen Guang's Dota Tower technique, a fanatical Dota Tower player. Seeing that his girlfriend's anger had turned into joy because of this matter, Li Mo felt all sorts of emotions in his heart. However, he was also a fan of Chen Guang, and there wasn't a single person that wasn't a fan of Chen Guang. So awkward, this was really too awkward. Actually, at this moment, Chen Guang himself was also quite embarrassed. In the parking lot of the terminal, Lu Fei was already sitting at the side with a serious expression. Chen Guang's underwear had been pulled back, but the zipper was still unzipped, and there was still a big tent on his head. "Let's go. I'm really not interested in that little girl." At this moment, he already wanted to leave, but Lu Fei didn't agree. "That won't do. If you lose, you have to pay attention to the rules. If you win, you have to pay attention to the rules too. If you leave without an explanation, it won't be right. If you win a girl back, you should at least have some fun. Didn't you hear that our identities have already been exposed? If you don't accept the bet, people will think that you and I, Lu Fei, are easy to bully in the future. This is a matter of face. Do you understand? Face is more important than the sky. Don't worry, no one will accuse you of cheating. This is called a bet. At the very least, you have to take a little advantage. Otherwise, in the future, everyone will dare to step on your nose." Lu Fei's words made sense, but Chen Guang didn't quite understand her logic. The world and outlook of the rich were really complicated. Although the old man was now considered a genuine nouveau riche, he still didn't quite understand. Finally, Li Mo leisurely watched as his car also arrived. With a red face, he awkwardly followed behind his little girlfriend to the Porsche. At this moment, the little fangirl's face was practically glowing. Li Mo felt that everyone was looking at him with ridicule in their eyes. He felt that his head was probably green enough to grow grass. His feelings were unprecedentedly complicated. He worshipped Chen Guang, lamented his own overestimation and misfortune, and felt extremely unbearable and regretful. But regardless of racing god Chen Guang's identity, he couldn't afford to offend Lu Fei. He couldn't go back on his word. "Why am I so King unlucky? She's here. Your girl is here." Seeing the little girl and Li Mo walking side by side, Lu Fei was even more excited than the main character, Chen Guang. "Forget it. Just a few words and you want her to leave? I'm not interested in having a relationship with her," Chen Guang said helplessly. Lu Fei turned to look at his crotch. The tent was still propped up high. She looked up disdainfully and naughtily flicked her finger. "Your words don't seem to be convincing at all. Isn't this all your fault?" Chen Guang was infuriated by her attitude that only allowed the officials to set fires, but not the common people. He couldn't do anything about it. Under the watchful eyes of countless people, Li Mo and his little girlfriend walked over one after another. In the crowd, the staff of Octave Weekly were also staring intently, but they were not in a hurry to send out their drones. Just as Zhuo Wei had said, if they wanted to take photos, they had to take the most explosive photos. On the other side, his colleagues were waiting in the car. Once he gave the order, they would immediately take action. If you're willing to bet, you're willing to lose. This girl belongs to us tonight. Before Chen Guang could say anything, Lu Fei chuckled. Li Mo's face twitched. He forcefully swallowed the words of repentance he wanted to say. What? Are you trying to go back on your word? Lu Fei raised her brows, her eyes quickly turning cold. Miss Lu, I'm not trying to go back on my word, Li Mo said awkwardly. There's nothing else for you to do here. You can leave. I'm not in the mood to play house with you juniors. Racing? You're really too inexperienced. Forget the fact that you ran headfirst into Chen Guang's hands today. If it were Zhong Bai or Wang Qing, you wouldn't be their match. You might not even be able to outrun me. This is a lesson for you. There's no harm in being humble. The sky is much higher than you think. Before leaving, Lu Fei even used Chen Guang's name to act cool. Unfortunately, Liemo really couldn't say a word. The news that the person sitting in the car was the racing god of the generation, Chen Guang. The invincible racing god shook the world in the underground racing world. No wonder there's such a big disparity between their strengths. It seems like Brother Li is challenging Chen Guang? Throwing an egg against a rock. Using your arm to block the car. Overestimating yourself. Serves you right for giving your girlfriend away. Limo's face turned green and white under the ridicule of the crowd. However, his little girlfriend had already moved over to the passenger seat of Lu Fei's car. The Porsche 918 was a single-row two-seater car. Normally, it could only seat 2 people. However, Lu Fei had made up her mind today. She let the little girl sit on her lap. The 2 of them curled up in the same seat. Chen Guang really had a headache because of her, and he didn't know what to do. What are you looking at? Still not leaving? Don't tell me you want to do something here? There are so many people watching. Lu Fei glared at Chen Guang. She didn't realize how much trouble she had caused for Chen Guang. Chen Guang sighed. This little girl was really pretty. Why was she so unlucky to be with an idiot like Liemo? He used women to gamble for no reason, and then bumped into Lu Fei, who was so serious today. It was only right and proper for him to win. He wouldn't be able to outrun him, even if he used his legs to drive. However, he didn't intend to be serious. Forget it. He started the car, and the Porsche 918 quickly disappeared into the darkness. Liemo slumped to the ground, feeling extremely depressed. Brotherly, don't worry. At most, you can break up with her. Anyway, you haven't touched her, right? Liemo's buddy came up to him and patted him on the shoulder. Liemo shook his head. No, if this hadn't happened, I might have broken up. But now if I dared to break up, her family would fight me to the death. My family wouldn't let me go either. Sigh. Sigh. Liemo was getting more and more melancholic. At this time, the people from 8 Weekly were completely excited. After discovering that Chen Guang had followed Lu Fei to Fengquan Mountain, he sent out more than 10 people from 8 Weekly who could still move. In addition, he also found his friends in the paparazzi world to set up an inescapable net near the Fengquan Mountain race track to ensure that they would be able to capture Chen Guang's goods. The Porsche sped along the mountain road at the exit of the Fengquan Mountain race track. Lu Fei was really too excited today. She really didn't want to be idle for a second. Her eyes were rolling around, and no one knew what she was thinking. Slow down. What? I'm not speeding. Chen Guang wondered. Don't worry so much. Just slow down. Just go 40. Lu Fei said with a smile. Chen Guang slowed down as he was told. He didn't have any resistance in his heart. Well, it seemed that he really had her at his mercy today. He would just let her do whatever she wanted. Anyway, he was a man. How could he suffer a loss? Humph. Don't get yourself into trouble. You have to know that the person you are provoking is the most powerful pile driver in history. However, Lu Fei didn't show any signs of restraint because of his cowardice. When the car completely slowed down, she pulled Chen Guang's right hand and pressed his hand directly on the little girl's chest. How is it? Does it feel good? As if afraid that Chen Guang wouldn't bear to use force, Lu Fei pinched the back of his hand harder. The unique elasticity of the girl's chest came from Chen Guang's palm. He really didn't want to lie. It felt really good. Since the girl chose to drive in front of everyone, she herself was a fan of Chen Guang's all-around superhuman identity. At this time, she didn't have any resistance in her heart at all. She even slightly adjusted her body to make it more comfortable for Chen Guang to pinch. I really don't want to admit it, but it's actually quite comfortable. Chen Guang didn't say what he meant this time. You're finally honest. Watch the road. Don't just think about having fun. If you fall into the river, you're finished. Lu Fei reminded him. Chen Guang laughed. Of course not. I'm the god of racing. Really? God of racing? Lu Fei laughed. Then let's do something more exciting? The little girl is quite happy, huh? You like him too? Chapter 635. The girl's face was getting redder and redder. Hearing Lu Fei's words, she nodded lightly. Brother all-rounder. I watched every match of the Dota Tower competition a few days ago. Lu Fei was amused. Yo, knowing more skills is quite an advantage. There's always one that can captivate people. I love your driving skills. And this little girl loves you playing Dota Tower. Next time, play League of Legends with me, and I'll introduce all my friends to you? Bah! I'm a righteous person. Chen Guang tried to quibble with empty words. Is that so? What about now? Are you still an upright person? As she spoke, she gently picked up the hem of the girl's white vest, then grabbed Chen Guang's hand and put it under the girl's clothes. Being separated by a layer of clothes, and not being separated by a layer of clothes, was a completely different feeling. The tickling in his palm became more and more violent. Chen Guang wittily slowed down the car, turned into a side road, and stopped next to a forest. To be honest, the interference of his hand was much more violent than when Lu Fei was racing. This car can't be driven anymore. Lu Fei became more and more crazy, and things began to gradually go in the direction of losing control. As a top-notch sports car, the Porsche 918's interior space was already very narrow. At this time, with 3 people squeezed in, it was even more difficult to make ends meet. Lu Fei moved her body slightly and leaned against the door. Then, she let the girl face Chen Guang and slowly unbutton her vest. She seemed to be a little excited herself, and her face was flushed. This is a rare opportunity. Such a beautiful little fangirl. You can't let it go today. There was a special charm in her voice. Chen Guang began to panic, although his heart was also beating faster. And although the scene looked really explosive, they were in the wild now. Although it was night time, and it was unlikely that there would be people passing by, this was 2F** king exciting. He thought to himself, don't tell me I really have to put this little fangirl on the fire for Lu Fei today? Although normal men couldn't resist this kind of temptation, the sudden happiness was too fierce. Besides, no matter how beautiful this girl was, or how pure she looked, she was still someone else's girlfriend. If he sent her back for a bit, she would still be considered unopened, and others would still be grateful. If he really did something to make her a cuckold, he would suffer retribution in the future. Lu Fei understood him very well. When she saw his eager and conflicted expression, she knew that he still couldn't get over the hurdle in his heart. Instead, she laughed out loud. What nonsense are you thinking about? Do you really think that I'm so generous that I'll just let you have sex with someone else in front of me? After we're done, we'll send her back. Chen Guang was relieved. He patted his chest and said, Damn, you scared me. I thought you were serious. I do have such an idea, but you're not cooperating enough. Let's not make things too difficult for you. Otherwise, what if you become afraid of me when you see me later? Lu Fei said with a smile, but her hands didn't stop moving. In fact, she wasn't disappointed at all. Instead, she was more and more satisfied with Chen Guang. Although he was a bit lecherous, he still had his principles. Her sincerity toward him hadn't been in vain. The girl felt a little disappointed, but also relieved. Perhaps Li Mo had suffered a big loss, but who could he blame? He was the one who coveted someone else's woman first, and now things had turned out like this. He only had himself to blame. According to common sense, the girl should have been the one who suffered the most, but because she was a fan of Chen Guang, she was looking forward to it. Poor Li Mo was afraid that he would be the biggest loser. All right, I'll give you 5 more minutes, and then we'll hurry back. Lu Fei urged. I'm in a good mood today. In the future, don't even think about looking at other women in front of me. Otherwise I'll fall out with you. Seize the opportunity. As Lu Fei said that, she began to move her hands down subconsciously, pulling down the girl's loose floral tassel dress. Come, give me your hand. Lu Fei began to move again. Chen Guang swallowed his saliva and stared at her, his hand slowly reaching out. Oh my God, this is too exciting. He thought to himself, if someone passes by at this time, I'll probably explode on the spot, right? As he thought about it, he subconsciously looked in front of the car window. If he didn't look, he wouldn't have known. But when he saw it, he was so scared that he peed his pants. In the air in front of him, A drone was hovering less than 2 meters in front of the car window. There was a miniature camera hanging below the drone, and it was pointing right at his face. Although it was very dark, under the illumination of the car's interior lights, the drone looked extremely clear, like a cockroach flying in the air. I'm F** King and a ghost. F***CK. What the hell? Chen Guang cried out in shock. Needless to say, the only person who would fly a drone to secretly film him at this time was Zhuo Wei. Chen Guang had been too careless. He had been on guard all day and night. Today, because he had settled the matter with Lu Chao, he had slightly let down his guard. Finally, he had caught Zhuo Wei in the act. Before he could curse Lu Chao in his heart, why was he so inefficient? Why hadn't he taken care of Zhuo Wei yet? Chen Guang shouted, "Put on your clothes. There's a drone outside." As he spoke, he opened the door and got out of the car. Oh no! He found us. Run! The two Octagon employees, who were hiding in the dark and controlling the drone, cried out. They tried to fly away, but there was no way they could escape. Chen Guang bent over to pick up a small stone from the ground and threw it at them. What's not good about it? The thing has already been sent to the boss's web drive. Why is this Chen guy so lucky? Damn, two girls, I'm dying of jealousy. Stop talking nonsense. Let's go. If Chen Guang catches us, we'll really die. As Chen Guang sorted out the remains of the drone on the ground, Lu Fei and the girl had already put on their clothes and walked over. Taking out a 4G card from the pile of debris, Chen Guang knew that this matter was not that simple. He had already caught some big news for Zhuo Wei. I'm really sorry. I didn't think that I would be secretly photographed. Chen Guang said to the girl apologetically. She was the unlucky one. Although the buttons on the front of her vest had been unbuttoned, it should still have covered the important parts. However, as a girl, this kind of thing might not be good for her reputation if it were to be exposed. Lu Fei was so angry that she stomped her feet. Why doesn't this Zhuo Wei go and die? What is Uncle Lu doing? Why didn't he say hello? Isn't this a bad thing? My good mood has been ruined. Chen Guang was even angrier than her. This was such a rare opportunity. Even if he sent the girl back later, Lu Fei would not be able to escape tonight. After being messed up by this damn fatty with the surname Zhua. Not to mention Lu Fei. Even he himself was not in the mood. The girl's feelings were also very complicated. She really wanted something to happen between her and Chen Guang. When she heard Lu Fei say that Chen Guang would not really do anything to her, she was a little disappointed, but also a little relieved. Now that the matter was really over, she felt quite dissatisfied. She was always taken advantage of by him. It seemed like she had not taken the initiative from beginning to end today. If she had known earlier, she would have taken the initiative to do something on his body in the car. In the past, she had seen on the internet that Gokyo University students said that Brother Allrounder's body was super good. At that time, she had also seen the photos on the internet. That fresh and beautiful body was really full of power and beauty. She actually did not even touch it. It was really too depressing. Chen Guang took out his phone and prepared to call Lu Chao to get a reasonable explanation. You have already sold 8 weeks to me for $1. And your lackey Zhuo Wei still sent a drone to secretly take pictures of me. Can't you let me be happy and act cool? How can I live like this? In the end, before he could make the call, Zhuo Wei called first. Mr. Chen, this time I really got something good. Say, if Jin Shiyue's boyfriend, China's #1 online celebrity, Chen Guang, raced in the middle of the night with 2 beauties in the wilderness, and one of them is the Lu family in Ogawa, the Lu family's Miss Lu Fei, who has a net worth of tens of billions. How explosive would this news be? Zhuo Wei's voice revealed a sense of pride. Ever since he crossed swords with Chen Guang, he had never been so confident. Zhuo Wei felt that this time he had really caught a big piece of news. If Lu Fei was just an ordinary woman, the Jin family might not care so much. However, Lu Fei was the daughter of Ogawa's Lu family, and her family's status was not low. Once this matter was exposed, Chen Guang would become the enemy of both the Jin family and the Lu family. Both sides would not let him go. Ogawa's Lu family was a real rich and powerful family, and Lu Fei was not a small figure. This kind of woman was really qualified to be favored by any male star or artist. This was a real affair, and it was much more serious than playing around with a small model. Perhaps there would be hidden dangers after this matter was exposed, but Zhuo Wei did not mind. He was Lu Chao's man, and even the Ogawa's Lu family had to give Lu Chao face. This is not a scandal that I made up. This is the truth. Before the matter becomes more serious, I will expose you in advance. Your Lu family still has to thank me. Otherwise, if your family's miss gets pregnant, and the two girls fight for a husband, wouldn't it be really chaotic? In addition, I am more in line with the Jin family's wishes. The old men in Beijing will also protect me, right? What am I afraid of? With this kind of thought, Zhuo Wei appeared to be especially arrogant on the phone. Chen Guang suppressed his anger. He could not speak too harshly to Zhuo Wei now. If he really forced this lunatic into a corner and released the video now, it would really cause an uproar. Tell me, what do you want? Chen Guang tried to make his tone sound calm. Zhuo Wei became even more cocky. Mr. Chen, if you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Chen Guang almost crushed his phone. What the hell did I do in the first place? Your entire 8 weekly magazines are now mine, okay? However, he was under the eaves, and he had a handle on him. Chen Guang really could not tell Zhuo Wei this unfortunate news. What if this bastard really wanted to fight to the death? Chen Guang tried hard to control his acting. He really expressed his anger and helplessness vividly, only hiding his murderous aura. He was grateful for the foundation of world-class acting. Alright, stop talking nonsense. Name your price. 40 million. We have reached a strategic cooperation. From now on, you will never see any scandals related to you on the internet. I, Zhuo Wei, and 8 weekly magazines will be your strong support. Jingxi is my niece after all. Although this matter between you and her makes me a little unhappy as an elder, I also understand Jingxi. Who doesn't love money? I love it too. How about it? My price is reasonable, right? Otherwise, I will hold a press conference tomorrow and announce the video in public. When that time comes, you will really be drawing water with a sieve. Zhuo Wei's tone softened. He also knew that he should stop when he was ahead. He wanted money, not to kill. He also did not dare to force Chen Guang too much. After all, there was the precedent of Su Lijing and his son dying in court. Although Zhuo Wei had a backer, if he really died in the hands of Chen Guang, even if Boss Lu avenged him, it would be meaningless. If he lost his life, what was the use of money? Tomorrow? Chen Guang asked. Zhuo Wei nodded. Yes, tomorrow at 10 in the morning. You can take a look on the internet now. I have already announced to the public that I will hold a press conference tomorrow. If we come to an agreement, then tomorrow's press conference will be my public apology to you. Even if you slap me dozens of times during the press conference, or knock out all my teeth, it doesn't matter. I promise that my apology will be sincere, and I promise that you will be satisfied and comfortable. But if we don't come to an agreement, you know the consequences. It will be up to you. This time, it really is an ultimatum. There is no room for negotiation. Chen Guang's heart slightly relaxed. Since Zhuo Wei did not plan to explode now, it was fine. Let me think about it tonight. I will give you a final answer tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning. How about that? If I wait until 9:30 tomorrow, then it will be 50 million. Zhuo Wei increased the price again. Chen Guang cursed, bastard. Then he hung up the phone and felt completely at ease. Tomorrow morning, right? I will give you a surprise. Lu Fei came up to him. How's the situation? What did Zhuo Wei say? Sai, it's all my fault. If I hadn't been too crazy today, I wouldn't have given this guy the opportunity. Chen Guang patted her shoulder and comforted her. Why is it your fault? Aren't I quite happy right now? I got such a great deal today. I don't usually have such an opportunity. Stop it. I regret it so much. Lu Fei said as she stomped her feet. Chen Guang shook his head. It's fine. He told me to think about it until tomorrow morning. If we can't come to an agreement, then he will hold a press conference tomorrow. I will call Lu Chao first and see what he has to say to me. After making the call, Chen Guang knew that Lu Chao really could not be blamed for this matter. It turned out that after he left, Bai Hua dragged Lu Chao, Wang Guoxiong, and fourth master Yin to talk business. Since everyone had settled the deal, they could talk about some details that were difficult to discuss in front of so many people. The more the four of them talked, the more in-depth they got. They talked about the new energy project that was worth hundreds of millions of yuan. Unknowingly, 2 hours had passed, and they still had not finished talking business. On the other side, Lu Chao was not in a hurry to call Zhuo Wei. He only wanted to talk about it after the matter was over. When Lu Chao heard that Zhuo Wei actually caused such a huge commotion in the past 2 hours, he was dumbfounded. Although he was not scared out of his wits, he still jumped 3 feet high from the sofa. The project that was worth hundreds of millions of yuan was almost completed. Zhuo Wei, you fool, are you trying to cause trouble? Chapter 636. Lu Chao hurriedly informed the other three, and said that he would go to the side for a while. Then he found a corner and gritted his teeth. Xiaochen, don't worry. I'll definitely give you an explanation. I'll get someone to kidnap Zhuo Wei and bring him back. I'll listen to you if you want to beat or kill him. Damn it, this guy is crazy. After a brief pondering, Chen Guang rejected Lu Chao's suggestion and continued. Uncle Lu, in my opinion, Zhuo Wei should be storing the video of me on the internet right now. If you get someone to capture him and force him into a corner, he might even find an informant to help him and threaten us with the video. What should we do then? Lu Chao slapped his forehead in realization. Usually, he was always in control of the situation, but this time, he was confused by the sudden situation. However, with Chen Guang's reminder, he immediately recovered his heroic nature. Lu Chao said calmly, "That's true, but it doesn't matter. I have someone I can absolutely trust in Octave Weekly. Zhuo Wei wouldn't have his guard up against me anyway. Even Zhuo Wei's personal assistant is completely under my control. So, I'll definitely control the video first, and then deal with him slowly." Chen Guang nodded. Since Lu Chao had already made arrangements, he could rest assured. That's right. As long as we control the video, everything else can be discussed. Then this press conference, let him continue to cause trouble online. Tomorrow morning, I'll go with you to Octave Weekly and not give him any chance to struggle. How about it? Lu Chao said again. With Lu Chao's status, it was overkill for him to deal with a lackey. But considering that Chen Guang couldn't afford to take any risks, it wouldn't be too much for Lu Chao to cause a commotion. Chen Guang smiled. He could imagine the despair on Zhuo Wei's face when he realized that his greatest backer had abandoned him tomorrow, just as Zhuo Wei was about to rip him off with a knife. Let him continue to hype up tomorrow's press conference. The more he did, the better. It would only increase the number of people who would come to see him overturn the case. Nowadays, there were too many scandals about Zhuo Wei on the internet. Gradually, a lot of marketing accounts started to follow the trend and hype it up. If they wanted to eliminate the negative impact of the whole incident in one go, they could only use strong medicine. He lit the big bomb that Zhuo Wei had made himself and blew him up in one go. After hanging up, Rufei asked nervously, "How was it?" Chen Guang heaved a sigh of relief. "It's fine now. Let's wait for a good show tomorrow morning." Seeing his confident look, Lu Fei also breathed a sigh of relief. "It's good that you're fine. Otherwise, I would really be a sinner. Don't blame yourself. You can't be blamed for this. You can only blame Lu Chao for being too slow." "That's right. I always thought that he was a reliable elder, but I didn't expect him to be so unreliable. By the way, I feel that there's something strange going on between you and Baihua. You seem to be afraid of him? This isn't like you at all. A woman's intuition could be so terrifying." Today, Rufei had only seen Chen Guang and Baihua chatting for a while, and she had already hit the nail on the head. Unfortunately, Chen Guang was no longer the same as before. His world-class acting skills had reappeared, and his ability to lie through his teeth had been enhanced. "Of course not. There's no such thing. You must be seeing things." Rufei looked at him a few more times. Although she still didn't believe him, his acting was too good. It was as if he had a clear conscience. "Forget it. Get in the car. We're going back." Rufei waved her hand. "Okay. Chen Guang responded and returned to the car unhappily. He still felt a little upset. Today was such a good day. The moon was bright, and the stars were sparse. It was the perfect time for cars to shake. But that scum with the surname Zhou ruined it. This enmity was irreconcilable. If I don't make you bloom all over the place, my surname isn't Chun. When the girl sat on Rufei's lap again, Chen Guang started the car and drove back. Look at your aggrieved face. It really hurts my heart. Seeing that there were no more problems, Rufei began to tease Chen Guang again. Chen Guang's face was bitter. How can I not feel bad? I've already started the fire, and now it's like this. Don't I feel bad? He wasn't wrong. After all, he was the strongest pile driver in history, even after such a long time. As soon as he sat down and smelled the scent of the two women in the car, his swollen body began to show signs of swelling again. Actually, you don't have to send me back. Liemo lost today. The girl turned her head and looked at Chen Guang. Although there was a dark shadow, she could clearly see the shape of a huge tent. She silently swallowed her saliva. This time, Chen Guang didn't wait for Rufei to speak. He spoke first. Thank you for thinking so highly of me, but I really can't do this. What I did just now was already too much. That's enough. Humans in life have to do something. I don't think this is right. Look at my crotch, it's about to burst. But I really don't want to do anything with you. Why? The girl couldn't understand. Rufei also teased him. Hypocrite. F***CKU. This is not a hypocrite. Chen Guang glared at Rufei. Then he looked at the girl again. As he drove, he said, let's put it this way. I don't even know your current name, and I don't want to ask for it. We've met today, and from now on, our fate is over. Yes, I know that many men like this kind of one-night stand. The night is long, and after passion, they don't know each other anymore. It seems like a beautiful thing, but everyone has their own aspirations. Others like this, but I really can't do it. Moreover, you have a boyfriend. If I really do something with you, and you go back to live with your boyfriend, I'll feel uncomfortable. It's really awkward. Chen Guang said this sincerely. When it came to the matters between men and women, he really wasn't that free and easy. Call him selfish or possessive, but he didn't care. After all, he couldn't be considered as truly loyal to anyone. But he really couldn't accept this girl's situation. If he were to have a little fun, the other person would be the one to suffer. If he really did something, he might have taken advantage of her. But when the girl returned to the other person's embrace, he would feel that there was grass growing on his head. But after all, they had never interacted with each other, and it seemed that there was no chance for them to talk more in the future. This little girl didn't seem to be outstanding enough for him to be interested in her, so it was better to send her back, save effort, and have a clear conscience. Although he didn't dare to boast that he was noble, he didn't want to be too despicable. It was rare for Chen Guang to put on such a serious expression in front of Lu Fei, and Lu Fei was a little stunned by him. She always thought that he was a little kid, but she didn't expect him to be so scary when he was fierce. Forget it. I better not tease him with this little girl, or else he will really get angry. Lu Fei felt that the atmosphere in the car was a little heavy. If it wasn't for your tent, I would almost believe it. In all honesty, this is really just my body's instinct, but it can't hide the purity of my heart. Yes, you are the purest in the world. Lu Fei rolled her eyes but didn't say anything more. Chen Guang didn't know that today's experience had really made his image in Lu Fei's mind go to the gates of hell. Don't be fooled by her completely crazy appearance. But in fact, her heart was very clear. She, Lu Fei, was also not a girl from an ordinary family. Although she still had a playful heart, she still had her own balance in her heart. If Chen Guang really slept with this little girl, perhaps Lu Fei wouldn't have any thoughts at the time. But if he wanted to touch her in the future, she would have to think carefully in the depths of her heart. You said that I won't marry for the rest of my life. I will play with you. I will play with you. I will play with you. But in any case, I have a place in your heart. You can't be too casual, right? If Chen Guang really behaved so casually in the relationship between men and women, Lu Fei would really have to question what kind of existence she was in his heart. Just like this, it's pretty good. Your answer is full marks. Chen Guang's act of throwing away sesame unconsciously saved himself a big watermelon. Along the way, Lu Fei kept looking at the side of Chen Guang's face, and between his legs from time to time. She also felt quite ashamed. Today's situation was a bit torturous, he looked so pitiful. But then again, ordinary people don't have this ability, right? How long has it been? Why don't you lie down for me? This guy's talent is really scary. 10 minutes later, the three of them drove back to the Phoenix Spring Mountain racetrack. The place was still lively, and Liemo was still sitting on the side of the road smoking in a daze. Why is Racer God back? Someone recognized the car from afar and asked curiously. Liemo suddenly raised his head and looked at the Porsche 918 that was gradually approaching. His heart felt as if it had been flipped over. It can't be that Brother Racer God's time is so short, right? Go to hell. How dare you slander my idol like that? Believe it or not, I'll fight you to the death. Brother, let's talk this out. I'm not bragging, I know physiognomy. Do you know what Brother Racer God's physiognomy represents? What? That's the face of a jackal, wolf, tiger, and leopard. Do you understand? It's the kind of scary face that can sleep with 10 women in a night. The masculine aura on his body is soaring to the sky, like a rainbow piercing the sun. The young man who was chatting with the fortune teller looked up at the night sky. Then here's the problem. It's nighttime now, so where is the sun? Tisk mortals. Some are insects, and I can't talk about ice. This fake fortune teller, who was pretending to be a fortune teller, would never have guessed that he had actually revealed the greatest secret of heaven. Liemo, we've returned your woman to you in one piece. Don't King cry like we're the ones who bullied you. Are you trying to make me feel a little guilty? Chen Guang stopped the car beside Liemo. Lu Fei opened the door to let the girl out as she spoke to Liemo. Liemo smiled bitterly and shook his head. I wouldn't dare. I didn't think that way, Sister Lu Fei. You can think whatever you want, but remember today's lesson. Be nice to women and live like a dog. Don't live like a walking genitalia. If it wasn't me and Chen Guang here today, but someone weaker and incapable, think about what would have happened to them. Would you let them off so easily? Don't think that just because you're a little capable, you can be arrogant. Grow a brain, or you'll fall to the ground sooner or later. It's also because I'm in a good mood today, and can't be bothered to argue with you. Otherwise, do you really want to pick up your woman? Do you believe that I can beat you to death? Lu Fei said this, and waved her hand coolly. Let's go. After driving far away, Chen Guang said, You're kind enough to teach others a lesson. Lu Fei sighed. I can't help it. I'm a good person after all. You call that a good person? You tormented me, and the other girls like that. Chen Guang's lower body began to swell in pain. He had been tormented by her for too long without a place to rest. It was really unbearable. Lu Fei argued with him. You don't understand. This is called a principle. Do you understand? Principle. Business is the same as being a person. You have to be easygoing when you need to be, and you have to be serious when you need to be. Although it's just a simple bet between you and Liemo, you have to uphold the spirit of the contract. No matter if it's good or bad, as long as the spirit of the contract exists, you have to keep your word. This is your responsibility for your life, as well as the lives of Liemo and his woman. You have to keep your word. You have to be responsible for what you say and do. You have to bear the consequences, good or bad. Otherwise, how do you think I'll take over the family business? Just by relying on the little bit of knowledge I have? With my talent? With my intuition, all businessmen are wrong. I'm relying on absolute respect for the spirit of the contract. That's all. Lu Fei's reasoning was quite good. Chen Guang teased. Then you said before that if I only take you racing, you'll never marry and be my lover for life? That's what I said. I'm a man of my word. Lu Fei said heavily. I'm not joking with you. Alright then, look at me now. Chen Guang was still speeding up. It had been more than 10 minutes since they left Fengquan Mountain. This time, his speed was very fast. At this time, they had almost reached the city's third ring road. The street lights on the main road were bright, and the cars were crowded. There was a sense of grievance in his tone. A certain part of him was hurting more and more. Although the pile driver was good, don't be greedy. Today had really been a torment for her. Stop the car by the side of the road, Lu Fei suddenly said. Chen Guang was shocked. What are you going to do? Isn't this place a little too exciting? You wish. I'm not going to take off my clothes. Lu Fei rolled her eyes at him charmingly and licked her lips. You know what I mean? Chen Guang nodded. I know. 2 whole hours later. Woo 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 woo. What are you talking about? Chen Guang leaned against the driver's seat, feeling refreshed. Woo woo woo. Chen Guang still didn't understand what Lu Fei was talking about. Lu Fei, who was furious, pushed him hard. Then she took out her phone and sent him a text message. Are you made of iron or steel? My mouth can't even speak. Send me home. Then you can take a taxi and leave. I still have a meeting at the company tomorrow morning. You've killed me. Chapter 637. Chen Guang chuckled all the way until he sent Lu Fei home. Then he went online and returned to his neighborhood. There was a small interlude. In the past, when he used to book taxis online, there were 2 competing companies. One of them was an online company that Shen Yuliang had a stake in, which was also the company Chen Guang had registered as a driver. The other company was from America. Recently, it seemed that the 2 companies had merged. Shen Yuliang and his online company had eaten up their competitors, so the taxi fare had skyrocketed. It was at least 50% more expensive than before. Fortunately, old Master Guang said that he was already a tycoon and did not care about this bit of money. If it had been the old him, he would have simply run back himself. Along the way, he played with his phone and looked at the movements on the internet. Although he knew that the mess he had caused with Zhuo Wei should be completely settled by tomorrow morning, he was still furious. Everyone pushed a wall when it was down, and a kind person was bullied by others. There were few who spoke up for justice, but there were many who hit him when he was down. In just a day or two, all sorts of people had popped up on the internet. From the afternoon until now, the first people to make things difficult for Chen Guang were many big shots in the domestic economics world. These experts used the current bubble of the internet celebrity economy as an entry point. They analyzed the possible drawbacks of the sudden popularity of the internet celebrity economy in a seemingly simple way, commenting on the negative effects that could be caused by society's ideology and whatnot. They spoke as if they were very sophisticated and reasonable. However, they all pointed out Chen Guang's name without exception, secretly accusing Chen Guang of being an uneducated, immoral, and corrupt person. It was the tragedy of society for a person like Chen Guang to become an economic phenomenon by relying on the impetuous internet celebrity economy to open a company to earn money. These experts said that if a person like Chen Guang became a rich person, it would go against the basic ethics of society. The big shots in economics all said that the biggest bubble of the internet celebrity economy was that people became famous too suddenly. These internet celebrities only took one aspect of their personal characteristics to the extreme, but in fact their own moral qualities were completely below the standard. For such people to become successful through one-sided and despicable hype and cheating was a great injustice to those ordinary people who worked in their respective positions in obscurity. Although these big shots in economics did not have many fans on Weibo, they were quite famous in the industry. Naturally, some people would regard their words and attitudes as the truth. Perhaps it was out of friendship, or perhaps it was because some well-known entrepreneurs really did not like Chen Guang, but they shared all sorts of comments. Perhaps it was out of friendship, or perhaps it was because they really did not like Chen Guang. They shared all sorts of comments. Ordinary netizens wouldn't doubt the doubtful points in the professor's words. They couldn't be bothered if Chen Guang was the kind of person that was exposed on the internet. They were just filled with hatred for the rich from the comments of the professors. They would wonder how a rotten person like him could become famous, popular, and receive a huge investment of 130 million yuan from the Tangjie Fund while lying on the ground. The wave of boycotting Chen Guang was once again lifted to a new height. However, this was not the end. The second wave came from the entertainment industry. Zhang Tianming, Li Longwei, and others in the entertainment industry, who did not like Chen Guang, spoke up for Jin Shiyue and accused Chen Guang of being indecisive. A person who became famous and successful for no reason would always arouse the jealousy of others. However, in the past, Chen Guang was powerful and had a stable relationship with Jin Shiyue. Some people who did not like Chen Guang dared not speak up, or perhaps they felt that it was better to avoid trouble. However, now that things had come to this, people from all walks of life in the country were discussing this matter. It was as if they would be out of the mainstream circle if they did not make a statement on this matter. It was time to stand up and speak up, to uphold justice for this dark and despicable world. The people in the entertainment industry spoke up, and the limelight was even fiercer than the experts in the economics field. After all, these artists had millions of fans, and some even had tens of millions. Their fans did not even think that Zhang Tianming was actually unhappy with Chen Guang, just because he was the male lead in Tears for a Country, and had stolen the limelight for Chen Guang. Li Longwei's reason was even simpler. The woman he liked was snatched away. However, the fans of these artists did not care about this, and they did not think about this. They only knew how to crazily wave flags and cheer behind their idols, supporting their idols. Seeing that the matter was getting more and more serious, Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage could not help but take the initiative to post blog posts, expressing their complete trust in Chen Guang, and stating that this matter was caused by 8 Weekly. In the articles published by the two, they listed several cases of 8 Weekly using or fabricating scandals about artists to blackmail and extort as evidence. The two's blog posts were issued by the studio with a red stamp, and they solemnly stated that they would pursue the legal responsibility of those who spread rumors and slander in this matter. However, it was useless and still useless. Once the anger of the crowd was ignited, unless it was like what Chen Guang was going to do tomorrow, directly using a big bomb to turn the world upside down, it was meaningless to just pour some water on it. Even Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage's own Weibo were followed by a wave of scolding. The artists in the industry who had a good relationship with the two girls, or who reposted or posted to support them, were also swept away by the haters like a wave. Even Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage couldn't save the situation, let alone the support of other professional darts, underground racing, and Dota professional circle players. Their words carried little weight and were useless. The entire online world seemed to have fallen into a fanatical carnival, as if they would be out of touch with the times if they did not say a few words on their own Weibo. The Weibo hashtag Chen Guang cheated, in just a day or two, had directly rushed to the terrifying figure of 446 billion. This meant that almost everyone in the country knew about this matter. In the past 2 days, Chen Guang did not update much on Weibo, but the number of his Weibo fans did not decrease, and instead kept increasing crazily. Until now, compared to before the matter was exposed, it had increased by at least 6 million, reaching a terrifying figure of close to 20 million. They were all living people. However, the comments below Weibo gradually became more and more unsightly. Behind the silences, golden was the public's voice, and the people who scolded him had completely gained the upper hand. Chen Guang faced the possibility of the public's image completely collapsing, and deleting posts and controlling the public's opinion could no longer change the situation. However, if he wanted to fight a lawsuit with 8 Weekly, the matter would drag on for at least half a year. By then, the direction of the public's opinion would be set, and even if the matter passed, it would still form such an impression in many people's hearts. The anger of the entire online world seemed to be vented on him alone. Fortunately, Chen Guang himself had a big heart, and he knew that the case would be overturned tomorrow morning. Otherwise, he would definitely be angered to death. You bunch of scum, fortunately, the old man has a killer weapon, or else I would really be scolding you for the rest of my life. I'm not bragging, but all of you owe me an apology. Forget it, it's a bit too difficult to make people apologize. $1 in exchange for an apology. This way, I can earn at least 700 or 800 million, right? Damn, that's a lot of money, but it's a pity I can't get it. Alright, he admitted that he was really a little distressed. On the other hand, after Lu Chao had arranged everything, He finally took the initiative to call Zhuo Wei. Lu Chao adjusted his mood and said in a joking tone, "Zhuo Wei, you've caused quite a stir on the internet these few days, haven't you?" Zhuo Wei had no idea that half of his head was hanging on a steel wire, and he was still laughing proudly. "Boss, you finally know? This time, I really have my eyes on a big fish." Lu Chao grunted. "It's quite big." Lu Chao really wanted to scold him. "A big fish is good, but you have to consider whether you can eat it or not, right? This fish is a shark and it eats people, do you know?" On the other side, Zhuo Wei still did not get the hint from Lu Chao's words, and he was still full of enthusiasm. "Boss, this Chen Guang is really a fat fish, and I have something on him, and he has no foundation. I didn't embarrass you in these 8 weeks, did I? There's nothing embarrassing about it. I asked you to do 8 weeks, but I hope that you will do your job well. Just watch Lucier culture for me, and don't meddle too much with other things." Lu Chao still hinted at Zhuo Wei in the end, but Zhuo Wei still did not understand his painstaking efforts, and he was still in a frenzy. He said indifferently, "Boss, that's not the case. Who does Chen Guang think he is? How can he monopolize all the money in the world? Everyone who sees it should have a share. I've already invested a lot, but as long as this matter is settled with him, we can easily get 30 million. You're really digging your own grave, Zhuo Wei." Lu Chao couldn't help sneering. What Chen Guang said to him wasn't just 30 million yen, but 40 million yen tonight and 50 million yen tomorrow morning. Aren't you a little too bold? At this time, you even dare to lie to me? Also, that Chen Guang that you said has no foundation has already put a knife to my neck today, okay? If it was so easy to earn money, why would I have to sell 8 weeks to him for $1? Do you even know how stupid you are? Forget it, you definitely don't know. Tell me the details of the matter then. If anything happens, I can be prepared. As far as I know, this Chen Guang has some background," Lu Chao said hypocritically. Zhuo Wei then told Lu Chao everything that had happened. Lu Chao clearly knew everything, but he pretended to listen with great interest. Zhuo Wei was full of fighting spirit as he complained about how arrogant Chen Guang was, how he would beat people up whenever there was a disagreement, and how he would send people to the hospital after beating them up. Zhuo Wei's trusted assistant had been sitting next to him since the beginning. He glanced at the China's #1 paparazzi, who had single-handedly created the 8 weekly dynasties, beaming with joy and did not say much. He held his chin and turned to look at the brightly lit 5 capital city through the floor-to-ceiling glass. He looked like he was daydreaming, but in his heart, he was thinking that his new boss, Chen Guang, had a temper that was more violent than Zhuo Wei's, and he also abhorred evil. Now that they've gotten into such an unpleasant situation, the entire company would probably be dissolved. Although he had become a spy today and might be considered a meritorious official in the future, everyone's philosophy was different, and he couldn't stay in this place any longer. The deputy looked at Zhuo Wei again, feeling a little dissatisfied. "If it weren't for the fact that you, the leader, were blinded by your greed, racking your brains to earn money that you shouldn't have, we wouldn't have ended up like this. Ever since I came to the 8 weekly, I have lost myself. I used to be a naive young man, and I wanted to be an upright reporter with such a pure heart. I wanted to write down everything I saw, take pictures, and put them in front of the public, so that the public could use their independent thinking to look at these things and phenomena. But when I really became a media person, especially after coming to the 8 weekly, I was influenced by Zhuo Wei. Initially, I felt that the celebrities who looked glamorous on the surface were disgusting, and I wanted to use real footage to expose the ugliness of these people to the public. Then, I gradually started to add oil and vinegar to the articles I published, adding in subjective concepts, just to confuse the public, attract attention, and stir up controversy. In the end, I became a despicable person who made up news in order to gain popularity or create popularity." He took a deep breath. His nostrils were filled with a strange rotting stench at night in the office of Octopus Weekly. He didn't know if it was just his imagination. Maybe this place really stinks, or maybe the stench is coming from me. Who knows? Forget it. Tomorrow, it's time to leave here and try to be myself again, Lu Chao finally said. It's good to have something on Chen Guang. Have a good chat with him tomorrow. But there's no need to make our relationship too rigid. You must hide the video well and remove it from the internet as soon as possible. The things on the internet are not necessarily reliable. Also, don't put it everywhere in the company. Be careful that the people below copy it, and the consequences will be unimaginable. Zhuo Wei nodded repeatedly and flattered. Boss, you're so thoughtful. I'll just get a small USB drive and put it in my pocket. I won't put anything else. When Chen Guang got home, it was already past midnight. The area downstairs was a mess. There were scattered pieces of paper everywhere. And there was also a large photo that had been burned until only a third of it remained. The photo was clearly of Chen Guang's chin. The angry crowd finally found their way here, as if protesting downstairs and venting their anger would be able to express their justice in their hearts. Chen Guang couldn't be bothered to ridicule these people who had completely lost their judgment because of public opinion. Not only did he not hate them, but he also felt that they were very pitiful. When he walked out of the elevator, he heard a crackling sound coming from the room. His heart immediately tightened. Did someone break into his house? Then wouldn't I beat you to death? Clenching his fists, he opened the door. Before Chen Guang could open his mouth to speak, he was shocked by the doomsday-like scene in the room. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.